This episode was brought to you by the following patrons: Stephanie, Wolfric, Natasha, Sophia, Gorotica, Vance, Cody, Boezy, Jeremy, Brother, Ali, Nathan, Jennifer with the PH, Mr. Ragebomb, Libby, Wes, Dreskel, Aaron, Danielle, Kristen, Tia, Lauren, Jonathan, Kate, Alex, Isaac, and Karoon. But because it's that special time of the month, we also get to shout out our You Can Get It level sponsors, and they are Wendy, Eliza, Sarah, Dharma, Stephanie, Amanda the Playwright, Leo, Alexandra, Emily, Brooklyn, Tori, Eli, Bryce, Sean, Logan, Dominic, Jamie, Alex, Shayna, Ali, Dr. Voorhees, MD, Matt, Megan, Amelia, Maxwell, Liza, Courtney, AJ, Spider Gwen, Lisa, Rock Donkey, Irene, Naomi, Bex, Mallory, Laura, Cameron, Kaylee, Richie, Casey, Daisy, Jackie, Elisa, Mushroom Stale Fox, Jennifer, and Michelle. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group where we hang out daily.
As you two know, I like to keep a blanket on my lap while I do Zoom stuff.
Yes, I've noticed. Did you accidentally do it during a work meeting?
I definitely did do it during my full team meeting, and
You're so embarrassed right now.
Yes!
And got called out immediately by my boss, who was like, "Is that a lap blanket?" in the chat while I was doing my presentation, and then the rest of my team all commented on it. Then at the same time, I've hired a cleaning lady. She starts vacuuming, and they're like, "Wow, look at this rich guy with his cleaning lady and his lap blanket."
That's as bad as me. I eat through every fucking Zoom call at work constantly. And every once in a while, people just be like, "Yo, is that a quiche? That looks fucking delicious." Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, the listeners made us watch Blade. So was this the first time any of you had seen this movie before?
It was my first time.
It's the first time since the 90s, and let me tell you, it's the best PS2 game playthrough I've seen in a long time.
Those graphics, though, I mean...
The plot, too.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole thing is a video game.
It is. It very much
I was
is
like,
a video
did he
game.
just throw that lady out of a building? He didn't know that there was a soft thing to land on out there.
He guessed. Oh, man. I knew about this movie. I had never seen it. And I knew about the sequels in part from listening to Patton Oswalt describe his time working on one of the sequels where Wesley Snipes asked to be referred to as Blade at all times on set. There's like a whole bunch of stories about it, and it's great.
Oh, I love that.
I love that, too.
Love it.
I would be honored to refer to him as Blade.
Well, and would leave like Post-it notes around the set with directions, and then it'd be like, "Please say this way, Blade." And I'm like, Blade uses Post-it notes? But that's a later one. We got to save those stories for the later sequels. I can't wait to do the sequels.
I can already see the Horror Version Out of Context Twitter account saying, "Wait, Blade uses Post-it notes?"
No, Blade actually uses stake-it notes.
Ooh, I loved this.
I love it, too.
Same.
Because looking back, I'm like, oh, this is straight up a Mikey movie because they
Yes.
are really going hard at it, but like none of these decisions are good.
Oh, no,
Nope.
everything's bonkers, but everything is played very serious.
The first thing I got to talk about Blade 1 is I have to spoil Blade 2 for you.
That's
okay?
fine, because so Jake watched this with me today because he didn't realize that I had never seen it. And Jake is obsessed with Blade 2. He loves Blade 2. And he was like, now we have to watch Blade 2. So go ahead.
I don't think I've ever seen Blade 2, but Mikey, please go on.
In Blade 2, Whistler comes back immediately like he's never dead.
Oh my God, I love it. That's amazing. Thank God. Chris Christopherson is a gem.
It's actually just, and I didn't remember that until I rewatched this and I was like, right, he dies, but he also comes back for some reason in the next one.
Like as a vampire or?
No, like straight up, he's like, I'm building your weapons, Blade.
No, as one of the founders of Outlaw Country, Paige. That's what he comes back
God.
as.
And I don't remember any more than that. So it's got to be completely bonkers if there's any more details than that. So I don't even want to Google it or anything because if we get there, if we can go down this rabbit hole, I'm ready.
I think we have to.
We have to. This was so much fun. There's no way we don't do the rest. And there's a new one coming out with Mahershala Ali. Yes.
Yeah, they bringing it to the MCU.
Yes, and I am fucking stoked.
Are you trying to tell me that this movie is not a part of the MCU?
That's
I
exactly
will
what
go
I'm
into it,
telling
Todd.
you.
And actually, I have like so many fun facts on this
Oh, hell yeah.
of like how this comes about. Did you know that there's an alternate ending that I could not find visuals of, but also links it to other superhero stuff?
Oh, yeah, where Samuel L. Jackson steps in and recruits him to be part of the Avenger Initiative.
Way
Yeah.
crazier. Way crazier than that. So much crazier than that.
It's just Blade and Forrest Gump tromping around history.
The way they introduced the new Blade is also because it's the what is the Marvel movie that I hated the most?
Morbius.
No, the one with the people who live forever.
The Eternals.
It is Eternals, yeah.
With the hands.
Because it ends with the giants. Yeah, god dang it. God, they've just ruined everything that they set up for 10 years. Anyway, in the end of that movie, there's a talking sword, and then Blade comes up behind the talking sword. Something weird happens. It'll be fine.
I should just burn it now.
Burn it.
Burn the fun fact.
Some background. Originally, they wanted to make Black Panther. So they had approached Wesley Snipes to do Black Panther, which here's what I will say.
I bet a 90s Black Panther would have been bonkers
Fucking
awesome.
nuts!
I know. I'm so here for that.
I'm really glad we got Black Panther when we did.
Oh, me too. I love Chadwick Boseman.
I feel like we got the best version.
Yeah.
I feel like it was really good. And I don't know that this Black Panther would have been that good. But they approached Wesley Snipes about Black Panther, and he was like, I'm not familiar. I don't really care. The MCU didn't exist. So nobody thought that there was enough of an appetite for Black Panther. Like,
Sure.
This is pre most superhero films. In fact,
Yeah.
some people credit this movie with proving that you could make a superhero film like this.
And we will talk about that in box office. Yeah.
We will, because I don't think you get Sam Raimi's Spider-Man without this.
Oh.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Anyway, they pitch Black Panther. Nobody's super jazzed about it. They pitch Blade. And Wesley Snipes is like, you mean I get to wear leather pants and do karate the whole time? And they're like, actually, yes. And he's like, I'm on board as a producer. Let's make this movie. Like, let's go. So they make this, right? But their plan was always to kind of shoot for what would be the MCU. This is 30 years ago. They're like, this could be a thing. If we could tap into the Marvel stable of characters,
Yeah.
this could be hugely profitable. And this is one of their first stabs at it, right? So they have an alternate ending that would have given them a jumping off point for both this and Spider-Man, because
hell yeah.
there are shared characters between the two universes. One specifically would have been kind of a complicated anti-hero big bad that exists both in the Spider-Man universe
Ooh.
and in Blade, and that is Morbius. So this
No
almost had an
shit.
alternate ending with Morbius.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
I can see it.
I still have not seen the new Morbius. I have no idea how bad it is. I know it's not good.
How could it be?
Morbius was always kind of a lame Spider-Man villain, even in the cartoon. I was like, oh, this guy sucks. Literally.
Well, and they wanted to kind of like merge the worlds, because only a few years after this is the first Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And they make Blades for like 7 years after this.
They do. They make so many Blades, and I'm so excited, because if they're all this crazy or crazier, I'm on fucking board.
Well, Blade Trinity, they bring in Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel, hot new young actors.
Yeah.
I don't remember the plots of any of them, except they're all as bonkers as this.
So, Mikey, do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
You mean in theaters in the 90s? Yeah, I remember.
Yes. I'm sad I didn't.
And I was like, that movie fucking rocks. But looking back today, I was like,
You weren't wrong. It fucking rocks.
Yeah.
the 90s, we just went hard at everything.
Yes.
And I was like,
Everything.
I was in high school at the time, but I remember I was in Randall's basement, which is where I spent most of my high school days. And we watched this and various other films in his basement. And I remember loving it. I never really considered this horror, though. This to me was just like superhero action, which I have
Action-y,
always
yeah.
been sort of here for. I mean, I get why it is. Like, don't don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not horror, but like that's why I was able to see this movie and not every other horror movie in high school, because it really is like an action movie.
I mean, this movie's not very scary.
No.
I mean, it does posit that like 1/3 of all people are vampires at one point, and I was like, I don't think that's what you mean, Blade. Your world's over now. It's just so bonkers.
So today...
Okay, so like things I noticed today's watch.
Okay.
The awful Foley work in a way that is
Yes.
So bad.
I was like, how did you let this big budget movie have this awful Foley work? It sounds like a TV show.
The stock CD punch tracks. Oh my God. There was multiples where I'm like, I have that punch sound effect on my computer right now.
Yeah, I can play it on my Casio keyboard right now.
Yeah.
The fight scenes, they're just terrible. Like
please.
when Blade and that other guy are just blank kicking each other,
Yes.
I was just like,
like 4 kicks in a row with no contact. And I was like, are we done canning or are we going to fight?
They're literally just ballerinas at that point. Like,
yes.
I do love that pretty much every move that Wesley Snipes does, you can tell by his performance that he knows where in that move he looks the best.
Yes.
Because he'll like stop there and pose, but like he's also mid-fight. It makes it like so fun to watch.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you could overact a fight scene, that is what he's doing.
He is. And you know what? Keep fucking doing it.
Yes.
Because like in my notes, every time he shows up, I just all caps Blade. Because like he just like struts in and like throws his jacket back every time. Today ass day was my first time seeing this movie.
I wish I could have watched you watch it.
And I cackled with glee most of the time. I even love the bad effects. The bad effects made it so much better for me. Because it's so crazy. You're just like, what is happening?
It is acted like, the effects are like, and the plot is like, it's one of those PC CD games that's like an
Yes.
FMV game where you make the choices.
Like Red Alert 2 or some shit? Like,
no,
is
not
that-
Red Alert 2. Like, no, like it's only acted and you choose where the person goes.
Oh, like Phantasmagoria?
yes. There you go.
Nailed it.
Yeah. The thing I love about it is the Mikey moviness of it, because everyone is taking this completely seriously.
Yeah.
100% serious. They are here to make this movie. Everyone is reacting to every horrifically bad special effect as if it is like current Ghost of Tsushima level realism. And they're just like, what? And you're just like, this is the fake. Oh my God, I love it. And then this movie, like some movies give too much exposition. This movie gives you fucking none.
I know.
Until like 3/4 of the way through the movie and you're just trying to catch up as it goes along. And you're like, what the fuck is even happening?
All of the exposition is yelled at the hematologist. It's like, bitch, shut up. There's vampires everywhere. Your world's changing. She's like, what? Like,
Also, you can birth vampires or get bitten. It's like a virus. Mushrooms? Question mark? I don't know. Run.
but the pure bloods don't like the mud bloods of the vampire. And you're like, there's a lot going on in this film.
There's
Yeah.
so much. They tried to cram so much into this movie, and you could absolutely cut 30 minutes out of this movie and have it be a tight 90 minutes. But here's the thing, that 90 minutes would be so fucking insane. It'd be great. Like, here's the thing. I love this at 2 hours. Also, I should mention, Jake and I kept asking, and Jake has seen this a million times and he didn't know. And so I was Googling around to try and find out what city this is supposed to be. And as we're watching it, we're like, this is definitely Los Angeles. Like, I know where this is. I can see where they filmed it.
Yeah.
But in fun facts, they're like, New Orleans.
It's supposed to be in
like-
New Orleans?
No.
Yes, because that's where the comic book takes place. And then he holds up a newspaper at one point that says New Orleans.
Oh
so
my
this is
God.
supposed to be New Orleans. And I was like, those cities look nothing alike. And he's like, and I don't mean like, hey, I think this is Los Angeles. I mean like they're in their car chase portion. It's like Figueroa. Like
Yeah.
this is Los Angeles.
If there's one thing I love about New Orleans, it's the miles of street subways and high rises.
Yeah, if there's one thing I love about New Orleans, it's the multiple Falas Paredes stores on every corner that they pass.
The last thing I want to mention is the 7-mile long subway train.
Oh my God.
Because that fight scene is like 10 minutes long, and
Yeah.
that train is going the whole time. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's a a very long train.
Yeah.
This is a video game as video game.
And not even like a great video game. It is like a of the time fine video game.
Yes. If you believe this to take place in Los Angeles, it all works. But to be like, this is New Orleans is nuts.
You know, New Orleans with their famous underground subway system because they don't have any problems with flooding.
Yeah, never. But also, I assume in the comics and everything, it's because New Orleans has vampire history. Like that's always the vampire place, you know, or whatever.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's honestly weird to be in Los Angeles, except that it's clearly Los Angeles. Anyway, I loved this movie. I cannot fucking wait for us to do the next ones.
Yeah.
I was glad I finally got the reference for the episode of What We Do in the Shadows where they start a nightclub and they want to have it spray blood onto the dance floor.
It is a really awesome opening. Like that shot is awesome. And you get Donald Logue in that scene. Oh, dude.
Donald Logue in this movie.
I know.
Well, first of all, I guess to mini spoil What We Do in the Shadows, in the TV show, everyone who's played a vampire in any property is a vampire in real life within that show. So like they had like the Council of Vampires at one point, and Wesley Snipes is one of them.
Oh,
and then at one point they have a party where they want to invite all the famous vampires, and Donald Logue shows up and they're just like, oh, I didn't know you were actually a vampire. And he's like, yeah, you know, I just fell in love with the culture after doing the movie. So like, and then he just like flips his fangs out and he's like, what's up, guys? And he just joins the party. And then you don't see him again for like the rest of the episode until he's leaving. He's like, great party, guys. Good to see you. And just like leaves.
Was it just me or did everyone stand up and clap when he finally kills Donald Logue and he snatches his glasses out of the sky and then puts them on?
Yeah. I just typed in all
much.
caps in my notes. Shades.
Well, why don't we just jump into the movie so we can go through it scene by scene?
Oh, let's. We open in 1967 where Sanaa Lathan is bleeding out because she's been bit by a vampire, but is also going into active labor. They deliver the baby and it's implied that she dies, and then someone just carries the baby away.
Yeah.
Cut to modern day, where people are basically collecting in what is kind of like an underground rave. We meet Tracy Lords, who basically brings a human in to this little underground rave as a date.
Yeah.
In the meatpacking district. Like drags him through this factory, is speaking in and if you watch this with subtitles, it just says Slavic language.
Yeah, it does not distinguish which one.
It doesn't distinguish which one. It's just like, you know them Slavs. They go in. And this is where we see essentially a vampire orgy / dance party. And we are forced to look upon Donald Logue both with braids and a mesh shirt and receiving a blowjob.
He was making out with one vampire, I'd imagine, and getting blown by another.
We call it the Taika Waititi, yes.
Because in this world, here's what I don't understand about the Blade world.
Oh yeah, let's jump in immediately to what you don't understand. Let's just jump right in.
You have to have safe sex and live forever because you can get vampires pregnant. And I was like,
wait, vampires can get vampires pregnant or vampires can get regular people pregnant?
Because the purebloods, they're born vampires.
Yes, they are.
But I don't know that means it was two vampires as much as it's more of a Blade situation. But then I guess they'd all be like Blade.
Yeah, they'd all be like Blade. These vampires are knocking each other up in here.
They definitely are. And you're not immortal in the Blade universe. You just age much slower than regular people do, which is why the purebloods are like adults, you know?
Mm-hmm. I would never accept a blowjob from a vampire.
I mean, teeth.
What if you just need that confidence boost, Mikey?
Bro, too much teeth.
I refuse to believe that you would turn down a blowjob from a woman with a good set of chompers.
That's true. That's true. You have a history of teeth love.
No. What if they like bite you in the dick?
What if anyone bites you in the dick that's down there doing some business?
Is this why you don't like vampire movies, Mikey? Because Mikey doesn't like vampire movies. We've had this discussion.
No, I don't like vampire movies because they're not scary and they're very like Todd in the early 2000s emo-y in a way that I don't like.
Man, I wish that wasn't so accurate.
I'm a vampire fan. I get down with vampires. I love me some True Blood and shit. And then I was having fun today.
To me, vampire movies are just like reading middle school kids' Tumblrs. It's just like...
hilarious? Yeah, I'm in.
No, but think about it. If a vampire's going to murder me, I'd like them to bite my neck and murder me that way and kill me through that. I think being murdered through my dick is the worst.
It'd be faster.
I'm sorry. Did you just suggest that murder through the dick is faster?
Yes, because of the blood flow and the veins.
I don't know.
That's why it sometimes in olden times, if you would castrate somebody, depending on how you did it, they could bleed out.
I think that you're cutting too deep, I think, if that's happening.
Well, I mean, if it's coming all the way off, like, you're bleeding out. Although, I mean, if they get you really good in the neck, it depends. Like, how far do they open
That's
it?
your carotid.
Yeah, I think the one Paige is talking about is the femoral, which is like technically in the leg, but it's like, it's close. It's close to the groin, right? So like, yeah, if you're cutting everything, you may nick it.
Yep. Anyway,
wait, tell me
back
about the
to
pregnant
pregnancy.
vampire. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
let's get back on track. So how do you knock up a vampire, Paige?
We got to answer the real questions for the people.
vampires are divided into two sociobiological categories, both pure blood and turn blood. Pure bloods are born as vampires. They are the offspring of two people who are already vampires. This happens very rarely. Very few pure-blooded vampires have scars because they have the ability to biologically regenerate from birth. And the birth rate between vampires is so low, they are very, very rare.
So they're like the aristocracy, like they're the higher up sort of. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you wouldn't wear protection because the chances are so low.
The chances are very low.
It's weird to me that like when you were watching this and you were like, shit, if I was a vampire, I'd still have to wear a condom? Like that's what you were thinking about when watching this movie.
I mean, am I alone?
Yes, you are. In the wiki, it says that all vampires are capable of having offspring either through traditional reproduction or turning, but the birth rate between mating vampires is so low it's practically non-existent. Even after many centuries, they may only have 1 or 2 children, but they can't be turned back because they are purebloods.
All right.
So you'd risk it, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely, of
Yeah.
course.
What a blessing it would be, though.
You're like, oh my God, really?
Mikey is a vampire lady.
Oh my God.
Ladies.
I never thought this was happening. It took 200 years, but I have a child.
Usually vampires can't have children in most vampire
That's
lore.
what I'm talking about. Like, it's pretty unique, I think, to Blade.
It's
I
pretty
think it
unique.
is, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we do briefly see Stephen Dorff walking through the crowd and the
We do.
all dressed all in white vampire whose name I never learned. That girl.
It's the girl who gets sprayed with a garlic mace at the end and her head explodes for literally no reason because
Correct.
it's not anaphylaxis. Like anaphylaxis doesn't do that to you, but like whatever.
I mean, if it did, I'd be a lot more worried about your girlfriend eating butter or something.
Oh yeah, same.
Be like, how'd your girlfriend's head explode? Popcorn? I don't know. Anyway, as everyone is dancing, the one human guy feels a little drop of blood on him and looks up only in time to see the DJ trigger the blood sprinklers for a crazy blood orgy.
Yeah.
Which honestly looks kind of awesome.
But all of them could get pregnant.
How do you think vampires get? Do you think they get pregnant when it sprays blood down on them?
If it's what kind of orgy are you guys wanting?
No, this is like an EDM like Dead Mouse concert where one guy was getting a blowjob. Nobody's getting pregnant in that situation.
I think other people might be fucking, but again,
Sure,
given the
maybe.
rarity, I think it's very unlikely.
But you know there's one vampire who's like up there like, you remember guys, like there is still a possibility. You guys have to, wrap it up.
I think if it's possible for you to have a kid once every few thousand years,
Yeah.
I'd imagine these people are having sex almost every day because vampires likes to fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Vampires be fucking because vampirism stories are inherently tied
Sexual.
to both purity narratives and sexual narratives.
Yeah.
Because they are basically morality tales. That's kind of every monster has a thing that they are linked to. And that is definitely linked to vampires and
Yeah,
lust,
absolutely.
excess, and these extremities of sexual gratification. So
yeah, but if they're having sex 365 days a year and once every 1,000 years they get somebody pregnant, I'm going to roll those dice.
yeah, I'm going to roll those dice all night long.
Yeah.
But you know that there's like that one devil youth pastor who's like up there like, leave 6 inches for Satan.
Satan's like, don't bring me into this. Fuck. I feel like he'd be more on board for the boning.
Yeah. And the potential for a new,
Vampire?
vampire baby. Yeah. I feel like Satan would be super down with that.
It's more, leave 6 inches for the Holy Spirit. That's who would probably not be down. Anyway, so the one human guy, and they're all kind of descending upon him as if they're going to eat him, but he crawls and approaches a pair of Doc Martens, and it is fucking Blade. And they part like the Red Sea, and they're like, come on, Daywalker. And he just fucking decimates this entire club.
Awesome though, man. Like the way he destroys Donald Logue in this scene is so great. But like he probably kills how many? Like 20, 25 people in this scene alone?
At least. And he's just like throwing them and they're like turning into ash chunks as they go.
These are not their best people.
No.
Absolutely not. No.
They definitely do like kung fu movie style, like let's go at them one at a time.
They do.
And he's got one shotgun that could definitely be rushed.
Oh yeah, I was watching this with Natalie and she was like, why do they just like fight him one at a time when they have like a lot more people than just him?
Because they need to get to the circle room where he can use literally just like a knife that spins the room and comes back to him. It's like a real life Beyblade. Just
Yes.
like
It's so great.
Can we talk about Chekhov's sword handle that comes back?
Oh.
I was like, oh, that'll definitely come
so
back.
many times.
It comes back 7 times. I was like, we get it. It spikes things out. Do we have to do it every four scenes?
Yes, every time. We have to put that handle in somebody's mouth and let it expand. Like, that's the only thing that didn't happen in this movie.
I was like, Jesus.
It's kind of like Predator now, where I'm like, I need to see that net that chops people into chunks every time.
Also, your hand would aggressively not explode if that happened. It would just let go of the handle.
Yeah, you'd be like, ow!
Or it would cut your fingers off. They explode like grenades.
I know. It explodes like there was gunpowder in it.
Yeah.
But the sword is like fine. The hilt is fine afterwards.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Did y'all notice that Wesley Snipes never gets blood on him in the whole film?
No notes.
Yeah.
You heard me. No
They explode all around him
notes.
and he's like, ugh.
Ugh.
But no, I think he had like a clause where like, I'm not going to be covered in blood.
I need you to spray me down with Scotch Guard every day.
I don't know if you know this, Mikey, but leather is self-cleaning. So
He just like,
in between takes, they would just run up there with a squeegee and just squeegee him down.
No, but like there's a scene where he like when he starts blowing up the people at the new compound, they like blow them all around him. And I'm like, there's not one speck of blood on him.
not a single bit. And like there is like shining elevators full of blood, levels of blood through most of this movie. And he's just like, thank God my coat didn't get dirty.
Nobody fucks with the duster.
Nobody messes with Blade. I love it. I am a full-on Blade head now. I'm so in.
Yeah, I can't wait to do the rest. I don't think I've seen any of the sequels, so I'm super excited.
I aggressively don't remember any of them.
Oh, Mikey, I knew I had seen this movie, but I remembered 0% of it.
So excited.
Yeah.
Anyway, at one point he throws a guy through a fence, which is pretty great because he hits the chain link fence and then it's just like ashes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. There's so many bad special effects, but one of my favorite ones is when someone gets stabbed with silver, or shot with a silver shotgun or whatever, and they just like turn to skeleton dust. Like that was one of my favorite effects in this movie, and it's always mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's aggressively 90s CGI, which I loved.
Yes.
Remembering how terrible that was.
It's kind of like if someone watched Army of Darkness and was like, we need you to badly rotoscope this into this 90s movie. And then they were like, well, it's going to look like a bad computer game. And they're like, perfect.
That's
what
exactly
we
the
want.
look we're going for.
That's exactly it.
Well, you know what, my college computer class? You've got the job.
Yay! Now back to Word Muncher. Yeah, like it's just so
Oh,
bad.
Munch.
Oh, R.I.P. Munch.
Love that guy.
They get to that circular room. He Beyblades everyone to death. And then Donald Logue is there and he stakes him twice with
In the shoulders, yeah.
those silver stakes, which I was like, how many times can you stand to be staked with those things without just like...
The heart page.
Oh, that's right. Okay, it's not the heart. That makes
So,
sense.
okay,
but
wait,
he's
wait,
not
wait,
aiming
wait.
for the heart
Wait.
for everybody else.
Hang on.
The bullets are silver bullets with garlic inside them.
The amount of garlic that they are putting on their weapons is hysterical to me, where it's like, I need the culmination of Blade 3 or whatever to go down inside an Italian restaurant just to see what happens.
So what you're saying is every time he shoots and like kills one of the vampires, he hits them in the heart? It's like a heart shot?
No, the stakes are pure silver. Whistler explains the bullets.
Okay.
Mikey, please don't assume that I paid attention to what Whistler was explaining.
Look, the bullets are hollow point with garlic in it, so they spread out. Look, I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm saying they threw it in there. And I don't understand why the other vampires also are making garlic hollow point bullets, because they shoot each other and kill each other.
Here's what I needed. I needed like an assembly line of like Chris Christopherson making the bullet, the hollow point bullet, and putting it on the conveyor belt, and it's sliding down to a chef who's like packing it with garlic in the top and then putting it back, and then it goes over to Blade and he's like putting it in his clips. Like I wanted that shot.
Only if it's the Swedish chef.
Orka Bladka.
No, it's Moriarty. Chef Moriarty.
Moriarty.
It would be Chef Moriarty.
What I really want is just Blade loading cloves of garlic into a clip. No bullets,
Just like pushing
full
it,
cloves.
like squishing it in.
Yeah, into
Oh
the
my
magazine.
Do y'all love that Blade goes to a secret shop to buy garlic sauce and then like never goes back there ever again?
Yeah, well, and I would imagine, I feel like this A must be something in the comics, or B, a deleted scene or something, because it looks like a botanica. So it looks like it's potentially diasporan healing / medicinal magic stuff. And then there's just no real info around it. But it does definitely just look like ground up garlic, you know? Because I'm just like, what, Blade doesn't have a blender? Like, what are we? You need a magic bullet, Blade?
Mikey, if you were the guy at the very beginning of this movie being taken to a second location by a beautiful woman.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah, I 100% would have been like, no, I'm not going to go to a meatpacking district dance party with you. I'm not going to die tonight.
First off, that sounds like a terrible date. Second off, this is why I would not fall under Francesca's spell on the perfect match, because I'm just like, I know that you're evil. I can tell it.
Mikey, you haven't finished the first half of that of the season.
There's
like
13 episodes right now.
Mikey.
I'm only in episode like 3.
Yeah, Mikey, it gets full villain, like horrible villain.
Good. That's what I want.
Guys, watch Perfect Match. It's nuts.
I have serum information. So in the comics, Whistler's the one who made it, but in the upcoming Blade that is part of the MCU, allegedly it's the same super soldier serum that Red Skull takes, because Red Skull's version is made from vampire blood, which I would imagine maybe links it to Thunderbolts.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, cool. Literally cannot wait. I did not realize there was a new Blade coming out. I cannot wait.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And then they're putting it in the MCU, so they'll be like, there was actually vampires here the whole time during Iron Man and everything.
Vampires.
You guys remember that?
Also, there's one vampire that actually has a pretty convincing motivation. They just take it too far, and so they've got to die.
The Marvel special.
Yep.
But this one got pregnant.
What is your obsession with knocking up a vampire lady?
I am so confused with how that's what Mikey took from this movie.
That was like a throwaway line, more or less, to justify the purebloods.
It's the one thing that is so different about vampire lore in this movie than anything else I've ever seen. I'm like, so they're saying the vampires get pregnant and have their own kids, and then they like grow them up to be elitist? I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, just like the 1%, Mikey.
1% vampires.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Hashtag follow the money.
Yeah, why do you think garlic stocks are down? I don't know if they are.
I didn't even know that garlic was grown in a stalk.
It kind of is. Not really, no. They're bulbs. Anyway, so he stakes Quinn, aka Donald Logue, twice. And Donald Logue's like, hey, man, hey.
That's like every one of his lines. I mean, he actually like says something, but it's like, that's the vibe every time he opens his mouth.
His lines are almost entirely ad-libbed, by the way.
Oh, I assumed that he and Blade as well were 100%
I thought
ad-libbed.
the whole movie was ad-libbed.
So Donald Logue was only supposed to be in like 1 or 2 scenes of this movie, but they thought he was so funny that they were like, yeah, just, stay.
I mean, it was funny that they kept cutting off his arms.
Yeah.
That was funny. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Anyway, Anyway, they light him on fire. And Blade leaves just as the cops arrive. And the cops are just like, all right, put him out. Like, they're so nonchalant about it.
In this version of the world, things aren't going well.
No, this
In New
is going
Orleans.
bad. in New Orleans.
Well, another blood orgy party. They all left before we got here because there's no bodies.
DNA is gonna be a bitch.
Oh, I know. No, there's one guy left alive.
Yeah, just the one human guy.
Yeah,
is
the
left
one
alive.
human guy is still left alive. So, like, he's just going to go to jail for murdering everybody?
No.
We've got 52 DNA samples. No bodies, though. Anyway, we cut to the hospital where they deliver a charred cadaver still warm. And we cut down into the lab at that hospital where Karen Jensen, the hematologist, is testing the blood they've taken from the cadaver. And she's basically just like, hey, this doesn't make any sense. This blood is weird. And this doesn't look like dead people blood.
Mm-hmm. It makes about as much sense as a hematologist working in a morgue.
Yeah.
I believe she worked a few floors down from the morgue, Mikey. So
I also like that Mikey is like, so they can get pregnant? You got to wear a condom. But he's just like, a hematologist? What? As if that's the crazy part of this movie.
do you know how expensive garlic condoms are, Mikey?
I'm about to find out. That sounds delicious.
Paige, does that mean that female vampires have their period every month for eternity?
What if it was just like every 100 years and that's why it takes like 1,000 years?
I don't know. I didn't focus on the pregnancy aspects of this film. I was more focused on how much ass Blade kicks and how many names he takes.
I do love it in this like action movie. Mikey's like, I wonder what the family dynamic is like. How do they family
What's the
plan?
gestation period of a vampire? Yeah.
Well, like, if you're a vampire who can birth the children's,
A birth of the children's.
Delicious and garlic and children's.
wouldn't you have the expectation that your moon time goes away and you get to live forever, like not having to deal with that human bullshit anymore? And then they're like, no, you can still get pregnant and you still have to deal with this once a month.
I mean, not having to have a period is a key selling point for me for vampirism. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that does kind of wreck it for me if I still have to have a period and be a vampire, except that snacks,
Yeah, exactly.
you brought it up.
No, I aggressively did not.
I brought
You
it up.
wanted angel movies. You
I
wanted to
100%
talk about
thought about it,
vampires
Paige.
and how they use tampons as like, I don't know, blow pops or some shit.
Now I know why Edward was always going into Bella's bedroom when she was at school.
Oh.
I mean, we all saw it happen in New Moon.
Is
That's
that
what the
New
moon is.
meant?
in-
This is why I hate vampire movies.
It was right in front of our faces the whole time. Somebody called Jackie Zabrowski.
Yeah, so I went down a rabbit hole while I was watching the film. I mean, in my mind.
Yeah, no, clearly you were, yes.
Anyway, the hematologist is like, shut up, this blood isn't real. And her ex-boyfriend, who also works in the morgue, is like, I promise you it's real. The guy's up there now. Just come up there. It's not a you and me thing. It's just like a cadaver kind of thing. Just like, come up. So she goes up there and they're looking at him and they're about to start the autopsy. And he's like, so do you ever have second thoughts about us? Because it clearly was definitely an us thing.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, no, they definitely had dated, for sure, yeah.
oh, no. I mean, he called her up there not because of the blood. He was like, let's talk about us, baby.
Let's talk about this corpse, you see.
It could have been both.
Oh my God.
There's not a lot of people you can date that are coworkers in a morgue.
A lot of bodies, not a lot of options, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legally.
No, well, hopefully even desired options, Mikey. I don't know what's going on for you, but
If you don't date outside the morgue, you end up dating Morris, rigor mortis. Thank you, Drag Race.
I think I would hate to date somebody that
was dead.
no, like your mortuary person next to you, because they'd be like, "Are you looking at her?" And I'd be like, "No, that's disgusting."
Wait, what? You mean, are you looking at the cadavers?
Yeah, you'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But you know, dating coworkers creates those kind of weird feelings in people. They always get jealous of your other coworkers.
I like that you think of the cadavers as coworkers in a morgue.
Wow. You don't even think of them as real things anymore, Paige?
How offensive.
No, they're real. They're just not employed.
What you didn't know about The Office is that Jim was a cadaver the whole time.
The whole time?
They're volunteers, okay?
Volunteers? They're interns until they get interned.
Oh, I do not love that joke, but it was funny.
Yes. Anyway.
How did she carry $4 million of lab equipment away from her hospital in the middle of the night?
That's a good question. It's never explained. It's like, it was a bitch to get here. You wouldn't believe the story if we told you.
Well, since we're talking about lab work, do they have vampire pregnancy tests? Like, what is happening?
It's happening.
And like, do they pee? Like,
If you're looking for an error-proof vampire pregnancy test, consider VEPT, Vampire Error-Proof Test.
Instead of, it just says pregnant or garlic.
well, can they even pee?
Oh my God, 2 garlics were pregnant.
Can they pee? I don't know if vampires pee, but you gave me shit about suggesting that zombies poop, so I'm going to say no.
Zombies have to poop.
They have to poop, Todd. I'm with you. Do mushrooms grow where the zombies poop, do you think?
Yes.
Mushrooms grow everywhere.
Anyway, so as they're talking over this grilled hush puppy of a corpse, it launches up and bites the doctor, not the hematologist, the other one.
Yeah, her ex-boyfriend, the guy who was
Her
like...
ex-boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know there's a part of her who was like, okay, good.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank God I don't have to be nice to him anymore.
Yeah, Curtis, dead in her phone now. So she screams to call security, and who should show up but Blade? Now, just as Blade shows up, Crispy Donald Logue does bite her.
Crispy Donald Logue. I love it.
Yeah. Do you want that crispy or grilled? So he bites her, and Blade, he's like, I came back to finish you off. He slices off his arm again.
It's so funny.
And Donald Logue ends up jumping out a window and landing in an ambulance and then runs off into the night.
Dude, him landing in a moving ambulance, I was like, this is insane. I love everything about this set piece.
This scene is where the whole film falls apart and goes off on
We're
its...
3.5 minutes into the movie, Mikey.
Well, yeah. When he tosses her one hand just out the window without
Yeah, that's
looking.
in a few minutes. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But like
It's insane.
when Donald Logue goes and it's like, is that a burnt chicken tender? No, it's running. And it's just gone. And then Blade is like, he picks her up. There's all the cops. He's getting shot. And this is where he throws her out the window onto a whole pile of cardboard boxes that he has no way of verifying that she would live through. In fact, she definitely wouldn't. That would have absolutely killed her.
Yeah, cardboard boxes, especially if they're like laying flat, are not gonna like stop you from hurting yourself if dropped from 80 feet away, you know?
Especially after she's already bleeding out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, he throws her like a rag doll. You're just like, she's so dead.
She lands on a tarp.
But he jumps, and then she's there. She's like, my shoulder's dislocated. And he like pops it back in for her.
I'm like, she didn't even land on her shoulder. She
Oh.
landed like on her. She would be dead.
Yeah.
It's just, my neck is dislocated.
He threw her a block. It was a block away. It was like across an 8-lane road.
I said 80 feet because I just guessed. It was probably further than that.
It's
Like,
way more than that.
Yeah. And like 4 stories down.
He throws her like 2 football fields away.
but yeah, you're right, Mikey. It also is like a bunch of floors lower than where they are. So it's like,
Yes.
yeah, she would have splattered on impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just a balloon full of blood and intestines.
No, we don't see balloons full of blood until towards the end of this movie, Paige.
Yeah, there are blood balloons. But so he jumps after her. They dodge a bunch of bullets, but then he takes her to the workshop with Whistler.
Yeah, he takes her to the Batcave or whatever. It's his version of that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's basically Batman, but also a vampire. He's vampire Batman. So they inject her with garlic and silver to see if she'll survive or turn.
Well, I can tell you that definitely would kill you. Like, if she was still just like regular ass human, injecting her with essence of garlic and silver would kill her.
Hey, but what if it was just thieves' oil on her feet? Like, You should try essence of garlic. It'll keep vampires away.
I've drank a lot of Goldschlager, so if there's Silver Slogger, I would assume it would be fine.
I think it's the fact that it's just straight into the bloodstream. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
this will stop her from turning or make her delicious.
What's the word when you have to like drink alcohol out of your butt, like through your butt?
Butt chugging,
chugging?
boofing.
We got to boof garlic all up in you to save you.
Quick, get the stuffing.
We got to treat you the way that the Pizza Hut treats crusts, and we're just going to brush you down with some garlic and herbs and see what happens.
I would have lost my mind though if Chris Christopherson was like, now lay back, and then he got like this thing of like butter and garlic and was like just wiping it on her with like a little paintbrush.
How does this feel?
Is it burning or is it like warm and like a buttery kind of way?
Does it smell really delicious?
I don't think Chris Christopherson's trying to save her. I think he's like gonna eat her.
Hey.
Do the infant vampire babies, do they need to breastfeed or
Why
because they don't
are
have
we
teeth?
still talking about the vampire babies?
If they age slowly, they'll be an infant, so they'll have to breastfeed. Do the mother vampires breastfeed blood out of their nipples, or do they do milk? And like, it doesn't make any sense. Or do they come out fully teethed out? And like a newborn infant fully fanged up would be weird.
No, Mikey, there's no teeth, but when they want to like feed, two fangs shoot out of their gums.
Oh.
It's so adorable.
I have an answer from another part of vampire lore, but it would ruin a surprise for something later. And so I'm debating.
Oh, don't tell us Twilight stuff. Don't tell us Twilight
Okay,
stuff.
then I can't tell you.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that Bella breastfeeds the baby and it's blood out of her nipples? Hang on.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's something so much weirder.
How is that even possible? That it's weirder than that.
Todd, you have no idea. You have no idea.
I love how this is something I could easily look up or just watch the movies, and I refuse.
Who's to say that Stephanie Meyer didn't start Twilight by watching Blade and having the whole same thought process that I had?
I think we know she did.
Mikey, I mean, maybe. I think it's so funny that you're so tweaked about this. It's so
Because
weird.
if they age slower, they'd be infants for so long. So the vampire family would have to really care for them for such a long time.
Oh, like 100 years until
Yeah.
they're not a toddler anymore, you know?
But that's how we get Boss Baby.
Boss Baby's a Blade vampire baby.
I love how that explains Boss Baby right there.
It all makes sense now. Do the infant ones shit blood and like you have to get blood diapers, or do they poop regular baby poop?
Why would they poop regular baby poop if they're only eating blood?
Yeah.
Do vampires poop?
I would say no.
Canonically, they don't.
If they can ejaculate and have babies, there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Well, I mean, I think their private parts work. I don't understand. Like, you don't have to shit to come, do you? Hang on.
No, but I mean, like, if their blood is the only thing going in and going out,
I understand what Mikey is getting at, because in traditional vampire lore, they're taking in blood to just replace the blood they have. So they're not actually eating, like it's not hunger as much as it is literally replacing the blood that they're losing by not decomposing, just kind of like,
Okay.
it keeps them going.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're ejaculating, your body would have to produce those proteins and those things.
Is it blood? Is it sperm in blood, or is it regular ejaculate?
Mikey, I don't know.
Is it all placenta?
The only frame of reference I have for any of this is Twilight, because that's like the only other one where something this crazy happens.
So in Blade, if she's pregnant and then like blood rushes out, is she like, my blood broke? We need to go to the
I
hospital?
mean, well, there's a lot of blood when your water breaks anyway. So,
But she probably doesn't have water. She's only blood now. She's a vampire.
well, but I think it's implied that she's turning as she's giving birth, and that's kind of that's why.
No, I'm talking about Blade. I'm talking about two vampires having a baby.
Then I don't know. I could tell you what happens in Twilight, but it's you know, that's the only answer I have for you, and I don't think that's the right one.
I hope this is something that they tackle in the new Blade. Because Mikey needs some answers clearly.
You think it's in the wiki somewhere?
I'm finding so many crazy answers. Like, how did Blade survive as a baby? And it's like, well, due to an enzyme in his bloodstream, he's immune to the bites of supernatural vampires. And I'm like, that doesn't give me any information.
Well, it said in the movie he ate unhoused people until Whistler found him.
Yeah, but if he's a baby...
Like, who took care of him? Oh, but they do say that he ages like a regular human. He is not like, his lifespan is not as long as like the vampire lifespan is.
Well, it's still a couple of years where we need to figure out where Blade's been.
No, I know. So there would have been at least 2 or 3 years before when he was like a baby-ass baby.
Yeah, everything I'm finding on the wiki is basically just like, yada, 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 baby.
Don't think about it.
Yeah, a lot of this movie has, let's not dive too deep into anything kind of vibes, but like, in a very good way. Like I love it. And I love that we're just like quickly moving through things because then it allows for us to have a 45-minute conversation about vampire periods.
But like really though.
I do think they would. I think that the reason it takes, 1 or 2,000 years to get one child in like a vampire pair is because they don't have their period every month. It's like a much longer cycle.
Diva cups, vampire conspiracy, or shot glasses. You decide.
Why not both?
Why not both? I feel like no one thought as hard as Mikey has thought about this.
No one involved with the production of Blade? No, Mikey is now doing a deeper dive than anyone has ever done.
Is that a problem?
No, it's wonderful.
Anyway, so she makes it through the night because they give her the garlic shot.
Yeah, that definitely would have killed her.
They're just stuffing her face full of garlic knots like, we'll see if she survives. And we cut to a vampire conference room where they're just like, God damn it, Blade. And they've got like pictures of him just like, you get me these pictures of Blade stat.
All right, cut this out. But I want a scene of a pregnant vampire woman be like, I'm really craving Chinese. And then he has to go out and like kidnap 2 Chinese people and bring it back to the lair.
Mikey, this is a joke that is frequently made on True Blood.
But she's pregnant,
Times
so
on
it's
True
better.
Blood, they're like, what are you feeling? I'm feeling Ethiopian. It's like, it's all the time.
I want pickles.
Just some German guy just walking down the street like,
Or just a dog with a little tag that says pickles.
oh, pickles.
Craving's a craving.
Oh.
Anyway, vampire conference room. Give me those pictures of Blade stat. And they're mad that vampire nightclub orgy got rolled because it draws attention to them and they have some sort of tenuous balance with local law enforcement that allows them to kind of operate underground.
Not even just like local law enforcement, like they are talking about U.S. federal politicians, like, and the treaty between man and vampire in this scene.
Yeah, this is the Illuminati, basically.
It's nuts.
And we're not going to address it at all.
No, we learned
not gonna
nothing
talk
about that. There is a complex treaty between man and vampire, and that information is given to you as a throwaway line.
And I love that Mikey's like, I have no questions about this.
No, he has all the questions about vamp periods, but does not care about the inner politics of a vampire-human alliance.
Every vampire property I've seen has some sort of vampire Illuminati. It's like cliche.
Oh, yeah, the Vampinati? Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vampiric Council. They sent 500 ravens. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so they call in Deacon Frost, who is Steven Dorff at his Steven Dorfiest.
Yeah.
His 90th Steven Dorfiest.
It's wonderful, honestly. He's great in this movie. But they call him in because he, like, runs the nightclub scene, right? Like, that's his job or
They
whatever.
don't tell us. They're like, Frost, you're important, but we don't really know why. And why do they have...
They're admonishing him here, like telling him to shut down his clubs because he's drawing too much attention.
Well, the Jedi Council doesn't explain to him what his role is.
Okay, Yoda is not in this movie. Hang on.
I got the impression that he was kind of like the bad guy in The Mask, where the mob is kind of like funding him and like taking a cut. And he's just like, I run this town. And you're just like, calm down, dude. That's kind of why I felt like he was like, where they're like, yeah, we know you run nightclubs, dude, and we take a cut of it. You just gotta be more fucking secretive, bro.
And do you think they pressure them to get married after they get pregnant? Or do you think
happening?
A little like True Blood Waits action.
True Blood waits. Oh
It's a
my
promise ring,
God.
but it's not silver because they're
No,
allergic.
that would kill them.
Anyway, during this meeting, they're just like, well, you're not a pure blood. And he's just like, fuck y'all.
I mean, do you think the infant vampire wakes up during the day and they're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get any sleep?
The coffin monitor just keeps going off.
Yes, please! Yes! What is happening in this world? We want him to grow up and be on the Illuminati Jedi Council, but like, I don't
We
know if
got
he's
to
going
get
to
him
make it.
into a good preschool first.
I just assume all vampires are homeschooled, honestly.
Oh.
Actually, do we ever see a vampire child in this? Oh no, we sort of do when they're like fighting in the Bible scene.
Where were her parents?
Oh, yes. And I have notes about her because she is actually a specific character. We'll talk about it in fun facts.
Is she a pureblood?
She is pure blood, I believe. Yeah.
She would have to be, right? Because she's a vampire child.
Where the fuck are her parents, bro?
Dude, she is 125 years old. Like, her parents left a long time ago.
Oh, that's your culture? We don't know their culture, okay?
That's honestly, you know what? I own that. That's on me. I apologize, vampires.
Yes.
Fucking dirty ass vamps.
Always getting knocked up.
Always getting garlic knocked up.
Garlic knocked up. Anyway, they're like, you're not a pure blood, so you don't get to be a part of this council. You don't get to decide shit. And he's just like, fuck you guys. I'm a vampire just like you. And they're like, not really.
I mean, this is where they really set up the whole like pure blood turned vampire, like I
Yeah.
guess animosity. Like the pure bloods think they're better, and Steven Dorff is like, "Fuck you, I don't care."
Well, and also the purebloods want to like coexist with humans in some
Yeah.
sort of ecosystem. And Steven Dorff is like, they're fucking food. Party it up. Let's just eat them all. They are chicken nuggets, not people. Let's do it.
I mean, and he is sort of right. In my mind, what he wants is for it to be more like we do with cattle, you know?
Yeah. He calls them cattle
Yeah.
at certain points.
So, I mean, that sort of makes sense to me, too. Like, I think that's probably what would happen if there were this many vampires in what is clearly New Orleans.
Good old New Orleans. With its notable skylines and many Mexican storefronts.
I didn't realize that New Orleans had this many palm trees.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And a beach and an ocean nearby.
New Orleans does definitely a port city with an ocean.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
But have you ever seen a movie in New Orleans not show the French Quarter the whole movie?
Yeah, never.
I wish there was a scene where Blade was handing out silver beads to unsuspecting vampires going wild.
Show us your face.
But like, if it's still an infant in 20 years, can it talk, but it's just in an infant's body?
I have to
I'm
assume
telling you, this
yes.
is how Boss Baby happens.
Yeah.
It can be a CEO.
Does it still wobble when it walks?
It's like baby legs from Rick and Morty.
Anyway, we cut to Blade goes to pick up more of his serum, where we meet this guy that he is clearly very close to and hugs that we never see again. And we get no other information.
Like, what if Blade raids a vampire preschool? Is he just going to kill a bunch of infant vampires?
That's where they got the idea for Darth Vader to kill the younglings.
Mikey, it is the Jedi Council.
It's a metaphor, Mikey, for the Jedi.
I want that Blade comic where he's like, oh, I found their lair. It's toddlers. Like, what do I do there?
He pulls out a katana, they pull out lightsabers.
But
Yes.
no, but Mikey, they'd be like old, so they'd look like toddlers, but they can fight. So it would be like that Barry episode where he gets beat up by that 13-year-old girl the whole time.
We don't know their child development. What if they take 100 years to get to toddler level?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, does that mean that they're like 78 years old and they're just like, ugh, can you just heat up my fucking dino nuggets already? Like, I am exhausted. It's been such a long night.
How long do they have to go to high school?
They matriculate a lot.
They got to go to Spoons, Portland, or whatever.
Spoons, Portland.
It makes as much sense.
Forks is a real place, Todd.
I know. I'm not making fun of Twilight right now.
Oh, good old Spoons. We are barely into this movie.
I'm sorry.
I know, and it's already 10 p.m. on a Monday night.
I'll stop talking about it.
I don't think you'll be able to.
Anyway, so Karen the hematologist wakes up in Blade's lair and sees all his weapons, his sword, the spikes, and everything. And Whistler's just like, hey, you shouldn't just bring home random people that are about to turn into vampires, except she's a hematologist, so that might be useful. And then literally, they give him his serum and Captain America him, which makes a lot more sense now that I've Googled, and it is literally Captain America-ing him.
Yeah.
If it's the same as Red Skull. And while that's happening, they see her watching, and she tries to run, and the slowest chase ever ensues because she doesn't know where she is or where any exits are.
I do love that, though, because she's like sporadically running around their lair, and you can see Chris Christopherson go towards the door away from her because he knows the only way out is over there. And that's where he cuts her off at the pass, if you will, because she had no idea where she was going.
Yes. And they're like, look, we're not trying to hurt you. We just, precautions before you go because you might be a vampire. Or hominis nocturna, which basically just means night man. Fighter of the night man.
Fighter of the Blade Man, who is the day man.
And so this is where we find out that it's New Orleans, because he's like, we've been hunting them in their migrations, and he's holding a map of New Orleans. The city that they are ostensibly supposed to be in, but are super not in.
Yeah.
But the comics, it is New Orleans. And they're like, do you remember Mr. Crispy at the hospital? He was a vampire. And she's like, yeah, he bit my neck. I had kind of guessed.
I remember that.
And they're like, well, here's what works. Here's what doesn't. Steaks, yes. Crosses, no. Silver, yes. Garlic, anaphylaxis. Holy water, no. UV rays, yes. And we have like a flashlight that does UV rays that they only use that one time, despite it being super effective.
It is very effective. Yeah. Like if he had gone into that club with that UV flashlight, he could have killed the entire room in like 45 seconds.
It would have been the same visual of like, whenever it's like an atomic bomb goes off and people just like turn into dust. Like that's what it would have been.
Yeah.
They should just made a bigger one.
Yeah.
Because then it'll just shine it everywhere. Anyone who's not a vampire will be fine.
They need that Gotham Batman spotlight.
Yes, just in the sun is Blade's Batman's
It is, you're right.
What I don't understand about the whole movie is he only hunts vampires at night, which I think is like really counterproductive.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't at all try and kill them when they're asleep during the day.
Yes.
Well, and there's questions about the day walking later that we will get to, because this movie yada yada yada's over a lot of why Steven Dorff is out in the daytime.
Oh, no, I think they explain it when Blade says, oh, you've got sunblock on?
This is the SPF of a killer, Bella. Anyway, they then quickly, Whistler and Blade give Karen the rundown of like, there's a war going on out there. Here are our weapons. You need to get the fuck out of town. And so she goes with Blade. He drops her off at her apartment. And he's just like, buy yourself a gun. Shoot yourself if you feel like you're going to be a vampire. Bye.
Bye.
We cut to the vampire server room.
That's a real thing in this movie,
That's a
guys.
real thing. That
The
I said that.
vampire
It's not a
server
joke.
room.
That is what happens. It's the archives. And Steven Dorff is trying to translate some of these old pages from a dead language. And he's like, he gets caught by one of the purebloods. And he's like, you wouldn't even understand them. And he's just like, you don't know I'm going to fucking understand. Just a fucking fuck. And then we cut away from it. Like,
He is very moody in this movie. You're right.
Steven Dorff is kind of like a QAnon kind of guy for vampires.
Oh, I got more like the "you're not my real pure blood" kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're like, that's a fairy tale. And he's like, no, it's real.
It's
Oh,
real.
I see what you're saying.
Even though we roundhouse kicked through all of the carefully preserved pages.
Man, I love that. I was like, wow, this is like the original Bible is what they're saying it is. Like that is the vampire Bible. And then they are literally kicking Blade through them. I understand why Blade wouldn't give a shit. But like, yeah, but like the vampires themselves seem to have no reference for this 1,000-year-old religious text.
It's like they hung those pages suspended in glass just so that someone would kick through them.
Oh, yeah.
And also, like, if Frost is not high up in the vampire council, why is he in there? How did he get in there?
Well, I think it's Pearl. I think Pearl bribes him. There's some like deleted scene that explains that Pearl liked to eat children and that's why he's very, very large.
What?
But that doesn't give me much more information about Pearl, the archivist.
I had a lot of questions about that too, because I was like, do you have a slower metabolism? Like some vampires have a slower metabolism? I don't understand.
Because Pearl is big, like bigger than any person I've ever seen ever big.
Well, it made me wonder, like, was Pearl just larger when Pearl was turned? Maybe if Pearl's a turned vampire. But then, because I was curious as well, because every other vampire mythos I am familiar with, you stay at the state that you were turned. And in this one, you age slower, but that means that, like, you're aging over time. Your body's not changing very much.
Right.
And if you're only drinking blood, like what's going on? And then the explanation I found was that Pearl liked to eat children. And I was like, are
children more fattening? Like, I don't understand what that means.
Are children the cupcakes of the vampire world?
You know how veal tastes so good, guys?
She only eats Augustus Gloop.
No, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to fat shame in doing this. I am just curious.
No,
there's
absolutely.
just unanswered questions here.
Oh, so you have unanswered questions now.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it. There are no answers for these questions,
No.
and so I will no longer pursue this line of inquiry.
But it is a weird choice to make Pearl that big, and then there's no explanation for it.
And nude. Anyway, so Blade lets her out at her apartment and is just like, bye. So she goes upstairs thinking like, it's daytime. They can't hurt me. And literally people with tattoos on their necks are after her in the elevator. And then she gets to her apartment and there's a policeman who just like walks in.
I think he was already there, Paige.
I think he was already there too. Yeah.
And it's illegal for them to search your house on a welfare check unless there's belief that you are in imminent danger of like being dead or dying. So like a smell.
I don't think he was there legally at all, Mikey. I think he was just like, my vampire master says.
Well, he said he's on that welfare check because he hadn't been to work, but like you can't just enter someone's house, even if they don't show up to work.
That is true.
I mean, I think it sort of made sense that you might send a police officer by someone's house when you saw them get bit on the neck at work and then they haven't shown up, you know?
And you can. They just knock on the door to see if you're okay.
Yeah.
And if you don't answer, they don't go in your house unless there's like they smell like they're dead or like you see something bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, she tries to like vampire pepper spray him with the garlic silver and it doesn't work because he's not a vampire.
Yeah, he's not.
And who should show up but Blade?
Of course.
Who like wrecks her whole house beating the shit out of this guy.
I did love that. Like he sort of while he's beating this guy up explains that he's a familiar, he's not a vampire or whatever. But while he's doing this and beating this guy up, he is breaking everything of sentimental value in her apartment.
She has like a TGI Fridays level of art on her
flair,
walls.
yeah.
Yeah, and he just like smashes him against it and then like drags him along the wall, taking all the art with it. It's just wild. And she's just like, you used me as bait? And he's like, get over it. And they like follow that beat up police guy. They find blood in his car.
Dude, that chase scene between the cop car and Blade's muscle car is terrible. Because the footage is so clearly just like sped up.
Yes.
It doesn't look like they're going fast. It looks like herky-jerky. It looks terrible.
Not only that, he is clearly in a static car with green screen that they're just like running stuff behind him. But then here's the other element of them, like, AKA New Orleans. He's like, we got to go to the clinic on Hillhurst. I was like, Hillhurst in Hollywood? Like the famous street in Hollywood? Where they never go because they just stay in downtown where Terminator was filmed.
I love how they tried 0% to establish that it was actually New Orleans except for one shot of a map.
Here's what's wild.
If you zoom in on the map, Hillhurst is circled.
It's just circled? No. Universal Backlot has pieces that they can make look like the French Quarter.
I'm sure, yeah.
And
they use none of it.
There. It's actually probably cheaper to film in New Orleans. Like it was probably more expensive to do this weird thing they did. Anyway, she doesn't shoot him in time and he's like, so Blade is like, you're useless. You got to learn to like fucking kill people with abandon. But she's like, I'm coming with you because otherwise I'm fucking toast. Like they are going to kill me and I have to find a cure. And he's like, whatever, fine. So they stake out that police car. He comes back. They follow him. And this is where, because Jake and I this whole time have been like, where is this? And this is where he's on like Pico, Olympic, Figueroa. And we're just like, yes.
I love this series of scenes because it's a very crowded street where he pulls a gun on a cop and beats the shit out of him. And I'm like,
Yes.
you think anybody would call somebody maybe? I don't know.
Well,
And he's dressed like Blade, which is also very odd in the day or not in an action scene.
here's what's terrible. If I saw Blade walking around, my first thought would be like, oh, I don't think the cops are any match for that guy. Let's just let that guy have it.
I'd be like, am I in front of Grumman's Chinese Theater? Like, what's happening?
But they're like, they're like, I know, where's your vampire master? As he beats a police officer, I've been like, that guy's probably gonna need some help later on. But
Yeah.
If I see anyone punching someone yelling, where's your vampire master? I'm going to assume that there is some sort of thing wrong mentally.
Yeah, that's the time for me to cross the street
Yes.
and be like, I hope that works out.
and like, do you think they can do paternity tests?
Oh my God.
Mikey.
And where do they collect the blood from?
Right.
How do you not get a contaminated specimen, Paige?
Does it look like them?
Do they have like vampire versions of what to expect when you're expecting?
Or Ancestry.com.
Because does it look like a mix of the two vampires, or does it look like a mix of the two people those two vampires ate before they had sex?
Holy shit. I love that premise.
I have no answers for you. I'm just thinking about it right now. Like, I know there's been a lot of dead air, but I'm just like,
I edited out all dead air.
you broke my fucking brain, Mikey.
Does that mean that if you want to procreate as a vampire, you also have to steal your victim's sperm?
No.
Okay.
Get the hot sauce.
No. You're creating your own bloody sperm, I guess.
Right.
Or real sperm. We just don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one has really ever answered these questions, largely because literally no one's ever asked. But maybe we should have.
That's what they said about Galileo.
Name one thing Galileo did, Mikey.
He discovered that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, okay?
I think he's right, Paige. I can see you
I
fact
know.
checking in. Yeah, I think he's right.
I think he is responsible for the heliocentric model. Yes, no, Copernican heliocentrism, which he didn't discover it. Copernicus kind of technically did, but he expanded on it. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. I'll allow it.
Eat that perfect mash.
Anyway, they pull up to a club with lines on the side of it, and he's like, this is a vampire club. I don't know why I turned into Steven Seagal right then, but
that's what he does. I mean, that's how Wesley Snipes delivers that line.
yeah.
He's like, there's a vampire sex worker on the corner or whatever. He's like, the bouncers
Vampire
are vamps.
doorman, vampire valets.
He's like calling his shots.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if you noticed this, guys. He describes everyone over there. So instead of
As
saying
vampire, the
every
whole
different type
sidewalk?
of person that's across the street, he could have been like, all those people are vampires and saved us 5 minutes of dialogue.
Yeah, and then he gets out and is like, to review, holy water, no. Crosses, no. Steak, yes. Silver, no.
Yes. Yeah, he does do a review.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is like before your first mission in like a first-person shooter game.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
No, I know, exactly. It's like, here's the weapons that work on vampires in this video game. Are you ready? Press X to start.
You're carrying too much blood. Would you like to have a baby?
Do you think they have like vampire child locks on some things in their house?
They have to. Like the shutters.
Why?
I love this. I honestly hope that the new Blade coming out just really focuses on like the child care aspects
no way
of
it's
pure
going to.
blood vampires.
I can almost fucking guarantee you
No, I
that
really
new
want them
Blade
to
is going to
dig
be like,
into
we're
it.
not going to go into that pure blood, turned blood shit at all.
I want the new Blade to be like Daddy Daycare, but with Blade.
Murdering the daycare. I just have questions, man. People are asking.
No
You know, I
one's
heard people
asking.
talking. You heard about this?
People
Paige, you heard about
No
this?
one's
Vampires
fucking
are periods
asking.
now.
No one is
You hear
asking.
people talking.
Just you.
Anyway, they do kind of say like they live levels of vampires among them.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yes.
they're everyone. And I'm like, Are they, though?
I mean, if you're looking at the sample size that's across the street from them currently where we are in the movie, it is 100% of people. So, like, yeah. Although they are hanging outside of a vampire club. So, you know.
Well, and here's the weird thing. Is it a vampire club or is it like...
I got the vibe it was like one of Steven Dorff's party club things.
I got the impression that it was owned by vampires to kind of hide the entrance to their thing.
Oh, okay.
Because not everyone in there was a vampire.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it may not be like a vampire club where like only vampires go, right?
Right.
But it clearly is like a vampires are welcome kind of vibe, and they have that passageway to their thing. Yeah.
Right. While Sailor Moon performs for everyone.
I didn't realize vamps fucked with baby metal, but yeah.
Yeah. And he fights his way back into the back of the restaurant. Anyway, they enter through the freezer. So they beat up the cop that it was the familiar that was transporting the blood.
Yeah.
And he tells him, give Frost a message. It's open season on all suckheads, which is such a crazy line. But I love it so much.
But there are so many crazy lines in this
so
that I'm
many.
like 100% sure either Wesley Snipes or Keith David wrote.
Oh, imagine this with Keith David as Blade.
I mean, I would love that shit. Keith David from They Live? Yeah, all day.
Yes.
Beating up Rowdy Roddy Piper, who is Frost? Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, they go down into the archives, and this is where they meet Pearl. And essentially what has happened is that Steven Dorff's character has kind of tricked them into thinking he's down there, but really they're just finding the archives. Steven Dorff is off somewhere, already has a plan, already has the downloaded archives of stuff that he has. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it seemed like Pearl was doing the, I don't know, like decrypting of the pages or whatever, and they had just finished that, and Steven Dorff like sees how to do the blood cult thing, whatever, and then he's like, well, I don't need Pearl anymore, so he just lets Blade kill Pearl.
None of the movie makes sense. We don't have to like go into that.
I think he treats Pearl and the cop as kind of like bait, like sacrificial bait, because he doesn't care if Pearl dies or that Pearl dies. Because he knows Blade's gonna kill Pearl when he finds him. But then on top of that, the cop, he like once the cop delivers the message, he's just like, great, I was hungry anyway. Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I got the impression that he killed the cop because the cop failed at what he was asked to do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he does just kill him.
Yeah, and we do get a shot of Steven Dorff looking over the files with his like weird coffin bed behind him. And we kind of get a sense of like what his whole room is like. We see Donald Logue, who has partially grown back a hand.
I love it.
We get a blood French kiss.
Lots of tongue.
Just like Natalie and I at Chewy's, except it's queso.
I mean, pretty much. No, it was that ranch sauce that they have.
Oh, yeah. That shit is real good.
Anyway, so this is where he's like, I want Blade alive, because now he knows that he needs Blade's blood for whatever.
Yeah.
He also knows that he needs 12 purebloods.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to get them somehow.
Which would literally be like almost all the purebloods, right? Like if it takes that long to breed, like that would be so many of the purebloods.
No, he just takes the Jedi Council. There's obviously more of them than the 12.
I don't think that he cleans out the population, but like that would be a significant number of them though.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Blade and Karen use the flashlight on Pearl to get the information that they're looking for.
Yeah.
The thing of La Magra and the spirits of the 12. And this is where Blade kind of moves into that room that has all of the like vampire Bible pages hung up in glass.
Yeah. The vampire Bible that is like 40 pages long.
Right. Purely there to be kicked through. And they see a young girl kind of running through the stacks, and he approaches her. I don't know why he wouldn't immediately think she was a villain, because he's just like, oh, come here, girl. And she just roundhouse kicks him through one of the pages.
Yeah.
She does.
She sort of kicks his ass a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, for the next like 10 minutes, it's like, fuck these artifacts. Every piece of glass in here is about to be broken.
I do think they destroy every single one of them. The original vampire Bible gets destroyed in this as an afterthought.
Pretty much. And they tie Blade up. They're punching him. And this is where Quinn, aka Donald Logue, comes in. He's like, I owe you 2 steaks. You know, like, I'm going to kill you. And Blade is clearly like not doing great. And then all of a sudden, explosion, Chris Christopherson is there to save the day.
Yes.
So they run through the explosion in the wall that happens to back up to the train, and they get separated. But this is where they like run across the tracks. Donald Logue follows them. They like push his face against the train. They take one of his hands again. Hella vampires just get hit by the train. It's wild.
He should have won an award for like most time spent in a makeup chair for a bonkers movie.
Yes.
Because in every scene except for the very first scene, he has like crazy amounts of like makeup on, like special effects makeup.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And also, I do love that like Chris Christopherson can't do any of the stunts for this. So it's just like, okay, bye. I'll see you guys back at the lair. Like, just like explained away. They're like, he could take care of himself.
Well, yeah, Chris Christopherson, who just like does disappear from this scene, was old when this movie came out, and he's still alive. He's like 86 now or something like that. He's a very old gentleman.
Yeah.
Who has lived a wild life.
A wild life.
Yeah.
As the next train passes, Blade catches the end of the train and they climb in, and she relocates his shoulder, and then he just injects himself in the neck with serum on the train.
Yeah.
Which would not be even the first time or last time that day that someone is going to shoot up in the neck on the train in Los Angeles.
Oh, you mean in New Orleans? On the
Yeah.
subway train underground?
On the underwater train in New Orleans.
It would
Yeah.
be underwater. Like the water table is so close to the soil there. Like,
Yep.
that's why they can't like bury in the ground. That's why they have mausoleums.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you cannot dig 7 feet down or whatever. Like
That's what they want you to think.
it's because they don't want you breaking into the vamp tunnels.
Exactly.
Everyone in New Orleans, go out right now with your shovels and discover these vamp tunnels.
Don't do that. That's a bad idea. But also, this is where she's like, you're one of them, aren't you? And we cut back to the lair where they've gotten home. And Whistler's just like, I found him living on the street. It seems like he shifted at puberty and was drinking people's blood on the street.
So that
okay.
means he was like a regular child until 13. Okay. That actually does make sense. So he was probably like adopted by a family, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And then sort of went feral when the hunger took over, and then Chris Christopherson took him under his wing.
Right. And it kind of explains like he can handle garlic, he can handle silver, he can handle sunlight, and he has their strength, but he ages like a human and he does have the thirst.
Yeah.
And he's slowly rejecting the serum to keep the thirst at bay.
So I guess my question was, because Blade is sort of half human, half vampire, and this woman right now is in the process of being turned into a vampire, can he get her pregnant right now?
Love this question. would the child be a pure vampire?
I think it would be a pure blood half and half, right?
Yeah, right.
I think so, because she has not injected herself with her like homemade cure yet. She has not completely turned.
It's either full vampire or full human.
Oh my God, how embarrassing would that be if you and your half-blood wife had I feel very uncomfortable having this conversation all of a sudden.
I think if there's any vampire in you, it ends up like it gets in there.
Paige, I bet you can't wait to have a vampire in you.
It depends on who it is. I mean, if it's Alexander Skarsgård, like, yeah, do you want to make an appointment? I got openings on my calendar.
He's an actor, not a vampire.
I don't think we know that for a fact yet.
He hasn't aged in like 15 years.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, who do you think raises the baby? Like the father vampire?
I would
or
guess
the
that Stellan Skarsgård had something to do with it. Oh, you mean just like regular vampires? You mean like, is it some sort of like seahorse situation? I'd like to think that they co-parent.
I assume you're just carrying around your baby Yoda, more or less, in a papoose for like 70 years.
How long do you think they're pregnant?
I don't know, Mikey. I think it's 666 months.
A lot of months, bro.
Oh my God, I forgot. That was so crazy. Sorry, I was looking up how long pregnancy lasts in Twilight, and it's so fucking nuts.
I refuse to Google it, Paige.
So, what's Blade's deal?
Is he single? Like, what's going on with that guy?
Like, no, I mean, like,
What are you talking about,
Such a
Mikey?
vague fucking
like,
shit.
why does he want to kill all the vampires?
Because they're killing people,
Killing
Mikey.
people?
The second vampires can have babies, Mikey is like, oh, I see their value. We should be on their side.
Anyway, we also find out that Whistler had
Yes.
a family once. that he had a wife and 2 daughters, and they were killed by a vampire.
Yeah, this is his tragic backstory and why he was out hunting vampires even before he met Blade.
Yeah. And what we do kind of find out also in this conversation is that there's some sort of shakeup going on in the vampire community politically, and they think that Frost is probably at the center of it, and they are correct.
Yeah.
So she goes to Blade and is like, Whistler told me all the shit. And he's like, you don't know me or anything about me. And she's like, actually, I kind of do. Like, he just told me all of it.
Yeah,
sure.
like you monologue a lot. I picked up on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he basically is like, I'm looking for the thing that killed my mother. And every time I kill a vampire, I get a little piece of that back.
Therapy. You need to go to therapy.
Oh, he's going to come face to face with his trauma here in a little bit, Mikey.
Oh, yeah. Cut to Steven Dorff putting on sunscreen.
Yeah. I did love it. If you look at the bottle, it is a picture of a like Steven Dorff vampire and a dog biting little like his underwear as he's like putting sunscreen on his face.
It's thick like Play-Doh. like he has to put it on with like a trowel. Anyway, they take one of the purebloods out to the beach and basically let him burn to death and take his fangs.
Which, okay, is this the first time they've won sunscreen? Because, like, they're putting a lot of faith in it.
Yeah, well, and they've got motorcycle helmets on to, like, block it. It seems like in this universe, as long as you're, like, clothed or covered, you can just walk in the daylight.
Yeah, like, if you layer properly, like you should, you're fine if you're a vampire during the day.
Which is, like, not the case in Twilight and shit.
No, because in Twilight, you could walk around during the day, you just sparkle like you went to the strip club.
Sorry, I meant True Blood, but yeah, you
sorry.
get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they come back to the Vampire Council and toss his fangs across the table and are just like, give us 12 people for our weird ritual. And they're like, all right, well.
Well, he's got the fangs, so we've got to do it.
Teeth,
like, they don't explain why
know.
they give them the people. Like, it makes no sense.
It was the 30 armed men he brought with him.
There's probably more of that.
Yeah, we cut to Blade's workshop where he's got some of the scroll that he rescued from destroying all of it. And it's just like, it's that book and it says this thing about the blood god. And I think that's what they're going to try and do. Also, this like hard drive. And Karen is like, cool, I don't know what any of that meant, but did you know that if you put anticoagulant in a vampire, it's going to pop like a balloon? And he's just like, okay. And she explodes a microscope for no reason. It's like, now you got to go steal another one. Like, come on now.
I do think it's hilarious though, because he's like, cool. And then they explode a microscope and then it cuts to another scene. Like, what is happening in this movie?
Well, and she tries to get his blood sample and he wants to go get serum, but Whistler's like, no, the blood sample is more important. So she gets the blood sample, but we cut to her taking her Band-Aids off and she's not healing, which means that she has another day or two and then she's going to be a vampire.
But also, like, it takes 2 seconds to take a guy's blood. Be like, oh, I've got to go run an errand.
Yeah.
I mean,
think
come
he just
on, Blade.
doesn't like needles.
Yeah.
No, they just have to set up him like biting her in the last like 5 minutes of the movie. In vampire movies, that is like them having sex in rom-coms. Like him biting the female lead.
Honestly, though, it's kind of sexy in this movie.
Yeah,
it is sexy. Like they are going at it.
Yeah,
and by
yeah.
it, I mean her neck.
And she keeps saying, don't stop. And I'm just like, yeah, girl. Yeah.
Been there.
He's like, don't pressure me.
It's like, sometimes I get nervous and my fangs won't like stay out.
I've drank a lot of blood tonight.
I shit on the floor earlier. I gotta go by. Do you want a quesadilla? Of course not. You're a vampire. Bye.
You're pregnant anyway? Oh.
Mikey, I guess my question would be would you raise a vampire baby?
100%. Like, is that even a question?
Mikey is out here just trying to be your baby's Whistler. Vampire moms.
I'd be like, I found him at 13 feeding on people in the alleyway.
Maybe that's the sound you heard earlier.
Yeah.
I ain't going out there, so.
Did it sound like a sexy crash or?
Could you describe what a
Could
sexy
you elaborate
crash sounds
what a sexy
yeah.
crash is, please?
It's that thing of when you like push somebody up against a wall and things kind of clatter around, or when you like sweep a desk to throw somebody across a desk.
I don't think we call those crashes.
I mean, it's gonna make a noise.
Yeah.
And that noise would be
crash-like in nature.
Yeah. Anyway, Blade is out running errands or something, and he sees Frost in the daytime, just like standing around in the shade with a child.
He said, "Frost yourself."
Oh
Frost
my God.
yourself. Anyway, so he's wearing sunblock, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this thing with the spirits of the 12. You know, the blood god. Cool. Anytime you want to come over, just let me know. Okay, bye." And then Blade tries to shoot him, and he like matrixes and then throws that little girl through a hot dog stand and into the street.
And if you look, when she lands in the street, the bus that he has to save her from is 1.5 miles away. Like, that bus had plenty of time to stop.
They're
but-
on a timetable. Yes, Todd.
Anyway, he does save that girl. But we cut back to the workshop where Karen's like, yeah, I think vampires are just like hella anemic. So I'm going to try this treatment that we use for sickle cell anemia. And it turns out they're like, oh, it works. But for Blade, it would also take away all of his other powers.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Anyway, as she's telling Whistler about this, turns out somehow that Steven Dorff was in 2 places at once, basically. Because he and his entire retinue of vampires have now invaded their like hideaway, and they beat the shit out of Whistler.
Oh, yeah.
And then they kidnap Karen. And at this point, I looked like to see how much was left of this movie, and it was almost a full hour.
I know.
And I was like, what is even left to do in this movie?
There's a lot of fighting, though, that we're going to not explain
Yeah,
every
we're gonna
punch
yada,
of, so it's going to
yada,
yada
yeah.
yada through some of it, but yeah.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like, the fighting in this movie is fucking dope. I'm here for it.
It's not.
No, I mean, it's great, though, because it is very overly performative. Like, if a fight
it's
scene
great.
could choose scenery, it would be in this movie.
The Foley work. My God.
The Foley
I love it when it
work.
sounds like he's punching a wet bag of sand.
But Blade comes back. Whistler is not dead somehow, but they've left a VHS tape that's like, here's our plan. Ha 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 ha. And Whistler's just like, hey, they bit me. I'm going to die. So like, I'm going to need you to shoot me because I don't want to be a vampire. And he's like, no. And he's like, then fucking give me your gun and walk away, stupid, because I'm about to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he shoots himself, but apparently comes back in the next movie. We'll see. Mysteries.
None of that makes sense, except Chris Christopherson wanted another paycheck. Like, I understand that part of it.
Right.
It's not, he didn't approach the producers of Blade and was like, let me pitch you on this. I believe they were like, let's just bring him back too.
I mean, I'm sure they did, yeah.
So he plays the VHS tape and it's like, your friend is dead. We have your other friend. Come find us at this place. Bye. And he's like, fuck. So we cut over to where they're keeping Karen. And Steven Dorff turns to Karen and is just like, so you and Blade fucking or nah? And she's just like, and he's like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to throw you into this weird pit for a while anyway.
I'm just going to turn you into the damsel in distress that everyone's familiar with.
Yeah.
The trope of. Yeah.
We do find out that Blade's blood is key to whatever their thing is.
Yeah, which is why Steven Dorff went from like, we need to kill Blade to we need to capture Blade.
So Blade shows up and he first has to fight those 2 with like cattle prods, but this is only for him to then syringe them in the face and in the chest and for them to explode.
Yeah.
So that we can see that, in action.
I mean, he blood balloons them until they explode. That's more or less the effects. Like, it's like expanding their skin in a very comically silly way until he runs down the hallway and you see blood splatters like
everywhere else besides him.
Yeah.
Yep. We cut to he gets to Steven Dorff's bedroom where the bed opens up and it's his mom, Sanaa Lathan, looking beautiful as always because she is gorgeous and ageless.
So for once, the villain saying your mom was in my bedroom was correct.
Yeah.
Does that mean Steven Dorff was trying to be Blade's stepdad?
100%.
Here's the question. Is he Blade's actual dad?
No, because she was pregnant before.
Yes, before she was
got
turned.
bit.
But we don't know if they had a relationship before he bit her.
Well, I don't think they can get regular people pregnant.
Oh, so you don't think that's possible? You have questions about every other part of this process, and you're like, no. There can't be any hybrids. Spoiler, Twilight has a hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, the sperm just goes in there and like eats the egg, right?
Oh, God. Anyway, regardless, she's there with Steven Dorff. And Steven Dorff's like, turns out your mom's alive and she's a vampire now and she's on my side, so fuck it. And because he doesn't have his serum, they basically transport him to the temple thing.
Yeah.
And strap him in.
Yeah, they're able to capture him because he doesn't have his serum.
Right.
Yeah.
And the piece they like block him into has like razor blades in it to like bleed out his wrists.
Yeah, I mean, the shot of it is actually sort of cool. I like it a lot. Like where it's like coming down his fingertips and like dripping into the bowl, the collection plate thing, and then it goes out over the dome that hangs over like the. It's sort of like the inside of a obelisk on some level. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of cool though. I liked it a lot.
It's like a hollowed column of.
Yeah, a hollowed column is a good way of explaining it. Yeah.
A large hollowed space, column shape.
I mean, enough to fit 12 people around the outside of, right? Like,
with plenty of space, too.
Yeah, plenty of space. And he's in like Han Solo levels of carbonite, basically.
None of it makes sense.
Yeah, none of it at all.
None of it makes sense. They dump Karen into a little basement thing where Curtis, her friend from the hospital, is. And she knocks him down and then climbs back out of it. It literally lasts 2 minutes.
Dude, I blinked and I did not even realize that was the same guy that she had dated and like had brought her up there. And then I was like, oh wait, they brought him back for that one little second? Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Well, and as they're like sealing Blade up, his mom comes over and it's weirdly sexual the way that she's kind of, it's woo, where she's like, I've hunted and killed and I've enjoyed it. It's like, ooh, yikes.
Yeah, I wasn't into it.
Yeah, Karen sneaks up behind a guard, gets a gun, and shoots that guy.
I love the way she gets the gun, though, because he's like on the edge looking down that hollow column thing.
Yes.
And she like grabs the gun with one hand and pushes him with the other. And he's holding on the gun hanging off the side of the cliff thing, and she just shoots him.
Yep.
And he just goes flying off the cliff. It's so great.
And while he does, they're kind of arranging all the purebloods under all of the glyphs so that when the blood drips down and Steven Dorff gets like the main blood drip thing, that will cause something to happen?
Question mark? I mean, it does. It does work. Like, we see it in action.
Yeah.
It's wild, though, because like all the 12 people, purebloods, get drops of blade blood on their face.
Right.
And then one goes to Steven Dorff, and then lightning comes in and connects everything for some reason.
Yeah, the force comes down and he makes him blood guy.
Yeah.
Makes him a blood god. I think they actually call him a blood god, right?
And it pulls their souls out of all the pure bloods or something about that where
and they
it's
turn
like
into
the
bone
skeleton
bats, Paige.
Bone bats. Yes.
They do.
They like bone bat their way. And meanwhile, as all that's happening, Karen like frees Blade and is like, you've got to drink from me to get strong again. And it is, it's very sexual.
I think I saw this position in the Karma Sutra.
Yeah.
Nailed it. It is very sexy.
Yeah, but as that's happening, and very, very sexily, the blood is dropping on Steven Dorff, and then everyone gets force lightninged. Then the bone bat like explodes from their faces.
I love that Bone Bat makes a cameo.
It bone bats into Steven Dorff, and like Karen is like moves out of the way because she's like not dead, I guess. But then Blade's mom shows up and is just like, oh, what? And he and his mom have to like fight. And
she does not approve of their relationship.
She doesn't approve of their relationship.
But it seems like she's jealous of Karen, and that makes me uncomfortable. So she had to die.
Well, that's a mother-in-law type of thing, you know?
Very uncomfortable.
I do love how his mother calls him Eric and not Blade.
Yeah.
But she's never met him.
And he never met her because he was a baby. This movie posits that he recognizes her from the day of his birth.
Paige, she imprinted on him, I guess.
I'm going to say he had pictures of her in his foster home.
Maybe.
Because she probably had a whole place to live before she was murdered.
No idea. I'm going to go with the imprinting. Anyway, all of the other purebloods are dead because their bone bat was the one thing keeping them alive. So now it's just Steven Dorff versus Blade. And Blade like runs through and like throat rips and like punches through a dude.
Yeah. He kills a bunch of people, and one of them is Donald Logue.
Yes.
And this is where he grabs the sunglasses and puts them on, and then Steven Dorff like pulls out his katana that he has, ?
Right.
And he's like, Blade, let's settle this. And then they start fencing.
Yes, and Blade cuts off his arm.
Love it.
But then he cuts his torso and it like flies and then the blood like pulls it back together.
Yeah.
And then he regenerates an arm. And so you're like, how are you supposed to kill this dude?
Well, it's a good thing that Karen actually invented the one thing that can kill this blood god about 15 minutes before we saw him.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and that conveniently Stephen Dorff was like, oh, is this your serum? Bye-bye serum. And like threw it and it got stuck in one of the stones.
Yeah.
But also, like, he doesn't have a lot of cool powers. Like, he's not that, like, he gets the shit beat out of him the whole time.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't like know kung fu or anything, but
What were the stakes? I didn't mean that as like a pun, but like, what were the stakes? Like, I never knew what Stephen Dwarf's plan was besides his eyes turning red and like he could like regenerate fast.
No, I think it was supposed to infect a bunch of people with vampirism. And I have something about this in Fun Facts. There's like a deleted scene that I'll talk about that still doesn't make a ton of sense, but...
Okay.
Love that.
Because it does sort of feel like he did all of this so that his body regenerates a little bit faster and he has cool red eyes.
Yeah. And so Blade throws his katana up where the syringes are and the handle explodes, knocking the syringes down.
Prop guy was so proud of himself. He's like,
So
honey,
proud.
they put my prop in so much of
So
this
many
movie.
scenes.
It's in so much of the movie, babe.
Well, and then he like is like ping-ponging these syringes into Stephen Dorff with his hands.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so
Well, I
dumb.
think,
It's so dumb.
doesn't he kick one at the end?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Into his
And then-
forehead. It's great.
Stephen Dwarf is not a good dodger.
No. And he's not even a good angel or padre.
But those are all Los Angeles baseball teams.
Oh,
and
I
this
think
is
you mean New Orleans baseball teams, Paige. But I do love that he ad-libs the line, some motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill.
Yes.
And that's like the end of this movie, sort of.
Yeah,
and it was
it's
ad-libbed
amazing.
and then kept. Like
So-
Wait, did he do it on set?
he did it in prep for something where he was describing someone else and the director thought it was so funny
Okay,
that they
yeah.
put it in the movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I mean, it is funny, but in the context, it doesn't, because he accomplished his goal, so he wasn't ice skating uphill.
Right. Anyway, so he and Karen climb up to the rooftop after Stephen Dorff turns into like a giant blood explosion. And she's like, I got to get back to the lab and cure you. And he's just like, no, I don't want to be cured. Keep your fucking cure. I'm going to be a vampire and kill vampires, and you should make me a better serum. And cut to Moscow.
Yeah, he goes to Moscow.
Where he just randomly shows up and kills another guy.
And that's the movie.
Well, at least he wouldn't stick out in Moscow.
Right.
I'm assuming that the second movie picks up with him in Moscow. Is that where it starts out?
No, the second movie is like basically an ad lib of whatever a vampire movie might be.
Love it.
I don't know. I'm excited. Can't wait.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what'd you guys think about Blade?
Perfect.
It
No
is
notes.
pretty stellar. Yeah, I mean, also no notes, Paige. This
No
movie
notes.
is bonkers, fun, and makes absolutely zero sense. It is just like the 90s.
I love it. I'm sad it took me this long to watch Blade, and I'm gonna wait until we do the sequels to watch them.
Same.
So that I can have the same experience every time.
Now, I did look it up, Paige. The next one came out in 2002. So we are going from a pre-9/11 Blade to a post-9/11 Blade. And I wonder if they make them more serious and gritty, like a lot of the Batmans and stuff that came after 9/11.
I mean, I don't know that he would. He was in New Orleans, and that's way far away from New York.
Yeah, Katrina didn't happen until much later.
Only a couple years later, actually. But
Yeah.
anyway,
So, do you have any fun facts for us, Paige?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts. The Blade fun facts.
So as I mentioned, Wesley Snipes was originally interested in doing a Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world was not quite on board yet. And so David Goyer had kind of approached him and others about doing a Blade movie. And Wesley Snipes was like, I'm not familiar with Blade, but if I get to do martial arts and wear a leather suit, I'm in, which is great. Thank you.
That is also featured in my writer for any acting work I do.
Do you want to guess who the other two options for Blade were?
Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington is one.
Wait, really? That would have been fun to see. Like an Equalizer, but young Denzel Washington?
Well, it's not young Denzel. It's 98. So like it's the Denzel we know and love from all the Denzel stuff. Now, I will say the other choice, the third of the three that they looked at, eventually did get to do martial arts in a leather suit, just not in this film. Who do you think it
Lawrence
is?
Fishburne.
It is Lawrence Fishburne.
I'd watch that too, man.
Yes, same. But David Goyer wanted Wesley Snipes. He thought Wesley was the perfect choice the whole way through.
Yeah, I definitely agree, though.
Now, Whistler was not originally in the comics. It was actually created for a kind of crossover with Blade on Spider-Man, the animated series in 94. But Marvel liked him so much that they then adopted him into the comics. And that's how that character ends up in this movie.
Very cool.
The Blade comics precede Whistler. So, I just think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's how Harley Quinn started, too. She was from the animated series of Batman.
That is true. So, when Donald Logue attacks Karen in the hospital, it's kind of a chaotic scene. Everyone is screaming. And then as they're shooting, they realize that Donald Logue also screaming. Not scripted. Why is he screaming? It turns out he had fallen face first onto the floor and dislocated his own jaw.
Oh, God.
Yeah, only problem with that is that they were filming in an abandoned hospital. So they then had to rush him to a real hospital to then have it reconnected. So he had, I guess, dislocated it in an injury when he was younger. And once you've dislocated your jaw once, it's a lot easier to do it. Mine was dislocated when I got my first wisdom teeth out. And then when they went to take the rest of my wisdom teeth, they had to dislocate it again. So it's pretty painful.
Yeah, that does not sound like fun.
But easily recoverable most of the time.
Okay.
Anyway, so Karen was originally written to be played by a white actress, but Wesley Snipes encouraged them to cast a black actress, and they did. And I think it works
Very
great.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think she's great in this movie.
In the scene where they run into the subway train that is passing by seems to be full of passengers, but in fact, they are all cardboard cutouts of pictures of the crew.
Of pictures of the crew? That's amazing.
Including the special effects guy who had the idea to use cardboard cutouts in one of the windows.
That's amazing. I love that.
It's pretty great. Now, in updating the vampire lore, one of the reasons they decided that crosses wouldn't work is because they were like, well, what if a vampire was Jewish?
I mean,
somebody should be asking these questions.
I want to know what does that do? Yeah, does it change the cross thing?
Well, and so that's why they pulled crosses out of this movie. So crosses don't come into it. Now, crosses also aren't a thing in True Blood. They also aren't a thing in Twilight. So, Stanley originally had a cameo that was cut from the film. He was one of the cops that came into the blood club during the aftermath that discovered Quinn's body on fire.
I want to see that scene, man.
Yep.
Shit.
So, as I mentioned, when Karen first meets Whistler, Blade can be seen holding a map of New Orleans, and very clearly so.
Yeah.
Which is meant to imply the city that they are in, but also an homage to the comic books, where most of Blade comics occur in New Orleans, even though that doesn't apply. This movie is not filmed there. No,
it's aggressively not in New Orleans. Yeah.
Aggressively not. The scene where Karen and Deacon Frost talk about a cure for vampirism actually originally was considerably longer, and it answers the question of what would happen if everyone becomes a vampire. And it's basically that they would keep some humans alive in giant blood bags to harvest them.
Yeah.
Those bags can be seen in a doorway in this scene, basically in the background.
Okay.
And they actually play a pretty important part in Blade Trinity from 2004, but they're also a plot point in Daybreakers 2009.
That's what I'm saying. Daybreakers is a vampire movie I really like. It answers a lot of the important questions.
I've never seen Daybreakers, so.
Is that the one with Ethan Hawke?
Uh-huh.
He drives around in a car that has got video screens on all sides or whatever because it's completely encased so the sun can't get into it?
I'm not going to tell you about the plot, but I will tell you that William Dafoe is also in that film.
Is that a horror movie? We have to do that. There's no way that's not insane.
Anyway, Jet Li was actually originally offered the part of Deacon Frost, but chose not to do the movie and to do Lethal Weapon 4 instead.
Okay. That was probably the right call, right?
That's probably, that started his whole career, I think.
Yeah. Although I do think he would have been great as Frost's.
Yeah.
Not that Steven Dorff was bad at the action stuff, but, he's really good at action stuff.
Yeah.
So
the martial arts kid in the archives is an actress named Ebony Adams. And they trained under Billy Blanks, the inventor of Tybo.
Yeah.
And according to Wesley Snipes in the commentary, they had to track Ebony down. Like, she was a national competitor and they had to talk her into doing the movie.
Oh, really?
And it was literally just for that one fight scene because no one else had the skills to do it.
That's cool that they found her and got her in this movie. Didn't you say she was playing a certain character from the comics?
No, not necessarily, but she's a vampire. That's all we know. Yeah.
She's a kid vampire. She's 107 years old, but looks
we don't
13.
know. We don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know, Mikey.
And finally, in an alternate ending, the original big bad for the sequel would have been Morbius, but they did not have the rights to the Spider-Man universe. Those were licensed by Sony at the time as they were prepping to make the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
And so it is implied that that would have been the next journey, but when they realized they couldn't get the rights to Morbius, they cut that and had the ending in Moscow instead. And there's a ton of more fun facts online. This movie is beloved. There's so much information about it. It is hilarious. Please watch it.
Yeah.
And if you are interested, go digging because there's a ton of other fun facts that we just don't have time to get to today.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Blade in 1998?
I think this is actually a pretty expensive movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that this was 50.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think?
Oh, I think 60.
Okay. Paige, you're a little bit closer. It was $45 million.
Ooh.
If you adjust that for inflation, though, that's $82.5 million today. Now, this movie premiered on August 21st, 1998. Mikey was there in the theater that weekend.
Hell yeah.
And it was number one that weekend, thanks to Mikey bringing all his friends. It beat Saving Private Ryan was number 2. There's Something About Mary was number 3. How Stella Got Her Groove Back was number 4. And Snake Eyes was number 5. How much do you think Blade brought in its opening weekend domestically?
$30 million.
All right. What do you think, Paige?
I'm going to say 24.
All right, Paige, you are closer. It is $17 million. But Mikey, fun fact, if you adjust for inflation, that's $31.3 million. So you weren't too far off after you adjust for inflation. But still, not quite its budget back. It was in theaters for a total of 18 weeks. So it ran from August 21st till December 18th was its last week in the theaters. What do you think it brought in domestically during its run?
I'm going to say 120.
What do you think, Mikey?
90.
All right, Mikey, you're a little bit closer. It was $70.1 million domestically, but Paige, it made $61 million internationally for a total of $131 million. So very close to what your guess was for domestic. And if you adjust that for inflation, that's $240.8 million. This movie made money.
That's why I got sequels.
Hell yeah. And I'm sure it also made money in the home market and then in streaming and all that stuff. So I'm sure this made plenty of money. But that is your box office. Mikey, do you want to hit him with that scary scale?
Yeah, our scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found the film we watched it today. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters. Our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Paige.
Oh, that's a 1. I mean, as far as scaries go, but I also loved it. So it's a 10 on the fun scale.
Yeah. I'm going to give it the exact same score. 1 for scary, 10 for fun. This is a bonkers movie that everyone should see.
I'm going to give it a 1 for scary, a 7 for fun, 3 points deducted for the thoughts that my mind had to comprehend about.
That's more of a you problem.
Yeah, definitely a you problem because you were really spinning on, oh my God, should I focus all of my attention to getting a vampire pregnant?
Well, I guess that's why scales are subjective. And that's our scary scale.
Apparently, that's our subjective scale. So this week, the listeners made us watch Blade. And listen, thank you all so much for that. We appreciate it because this movie was awesome. What are you two going to make us all watch next week?
Well, next month, because it is a new month.
That's right. We're into March. You're right.
Is Killer Toys month. So the first one for Killer Toys is Megan Mathregan.
And I wanted to tell you both, they have an unrated edition.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
The director's extended edition on streaming on
Let's
Peacock.
do it.
That's the reason we pushed it off until now, because we want to do the full extended version. Yeah.
Yep. Extended version. That is the next movie.
So your homework for next week is to watch the extended cut of Mathregan on, I guess it's Peacock or wherever it's streaming. I'm not sure where it's streaming.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere on there.
Yeah,
We'll find
you
it.
could find
We'll
it.
find
You're
it.
adults. You know how to Google. But yeah, do that and then check back in for what I'm sure is going to be a bonkers episode if our episode on Malignant is to be relived.
I'm so excited.
'Cause it's the same writer,
so
right?
excited. It's the same writer.
I can't
and
wait.
honestly, at this point, I will see anything.
Same.
Anything she writes because I appreciate her commitment to chaos.
So Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
Oh, no, I forgot.
Well, while you're looking one up, let me tell them how they can have their review run the podcast, and that is to leave us a 5-star text review, and we'll have Mikey read it for you. So Mikey, whose review are you going to read this week?
Okay. Great game is so cool.
What is Great Game is so cool? What do they have to say?
The title of the review is It's a Me, Warner Herzog.
It's a me.
What a hurt song.
They say, I don't usually write reviews, but that line made me snort laugh so hard. Thank
Yeah,
you for
me
this
too.
wonderful podcast. Thank you for making me laugh. Keep up the good work. 5 stars.
Well,
Yay.
Great Game is so cool. Thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want to have us read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review. So, guys, if you like this show but want to hear this power throuple on another movie review show about romance and romantic comedies, check out Romancing the Pod, where Mikey, Paige, and I break down and make fun of romantic movies. It's a lot of fun, guys. Check it out. If you want to follow us on social, please do. We are at Horror Virgin or online at horrorvirgin.com. If you want to follow us all individually, you can do that as well. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Twitter or Rampage Wesley everywhere else, including TikTok. Mikey is at mrandolph24 and I am at Todd J. Awesome. If you like the show so much and you want to help financially support it, please do by going to patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where you can get a lot of great levels and a lot of great stuff like bonus episodes, director's cut episodes where they're a little bit longer and you get them actually a day earlier than the regular feed drop. We do a lot of great things like listener requests and stuff like that. So guys, check out the Patreon and help support the show.
If you want to financially support me, but not Todd, just look me up on Venmo.
If you can't financially support the show, that's understandable. That's fine. But if you want to hang out with us on the daily, join the Facebook group at facebook.com/group/horrorvirgin. We also link it like once a week. So just find it there and join the awesome Facebook group. Literally, we're in there talking every day. It's awesome. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out our Twitch stream, we're at twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, where we will be playing horror video games. So if you have always wondered what it would be like to watch me get scared, you can now do that on Twitch while I play these horror games. It's twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, guys. Check it out. It's a lot of fun for you. Not a lot of fun for me. And if you haven't noticed, since October 1st, we have been running the new Horror Virgin blog. And when I say we, I really mean Katie from the Facebook group. She's been running everything. She's like the managing editor of the Horror Virgin blog. So if you haven't been to our Horror Virgin blog, go check it out. It's at horrorvirgin.com/blog. You'll see it. It's awesome. There's a lot of great articles. I mean, at the end of October, we have 31 awesome articles up, but check out our awesome Horror Virgin blog up now. This episode was brought to you by Tia, and Tia's teenager's been just driving her crazy. So how is Tia's teenager driving her crazy this week?
She keeps shooting up garlic in the bathroom.
I do just want to go ahead and say, again, if she had gotten shot up with like garlic and silver, that would kill you alone.
Yeah, probably.
Like she would have died either way. So Tia's teenager, don't do that. That's a bad idea. This episode also brought to you by Jonathan, and Jonathan wants me to share with you all some videos. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Let me share my screen really quick.
I saw a really terrible spider video the other day, so.
Oh, I hope we're not getting a spider video, honestly. All right, here we go. You guys ready?
Yep.
It's a video called Llamas with Hats. This feels a lot like, what was the video with the unicorns?
Charlie the Unicorn.
Yeah, it feels very Charlie the Unicorn, but it's llamas with various hats on.
Yes.
Oh, look at the recommended videos on the side. Charlie the Unicorn is right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the same company.
Oh, did Film Cow do that one too? Yeah, I guess it did. Yeah, you're right. Well, I'll say it is funny. Not as funny as Charlie the Unicorn,
I do prefer Charlie the Unicorn, yes.
but I dig it.
Charlie.
Yeah.
It's a magical Leopoldo, Charlie.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for the support and the videos. We appreciate it. We now return you to another well-researched and thought-out episode of
The Patreonicals.
We're on Karun's homeworld.
I don't remember. Do you remember what the name of that planet was? Forgive me, I forgot.
Planet Crouton.
It's in the Salad Nebula.
If the planet changed every week, I would laugh so hard.
Well, I'm pretty sure it wasn't called that last week, so yeah.
I know. It's like, I feel like I would have remembered Planet Crouton.
I don't remember much about last week, quote unquote.
Quote unquote week.
Anyway, the Mun people have an evil empire across the galaxy.
Rage Against the Machine wrote a whole album about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, it's Mun slaughter on the homeworld. Karun's people are being massacred. Karun finds the bodies of his family.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
That
Holy
escalated
shit.
so fast.
The Moon people poke them to death with their long fingers and futuristic weapons.
Futuristic weapons that are housed in their fingertips.
With their witch magic and Uzis.
So Karun, he is super crying and Dave is consoling him.
Karun is blue on the inside and out.
Natasha is also there and was like, I'm so sorry your family is dead. Your children are also dead.
Wow! Someone needs to let Natasha know to call her shots, man. Like, you could give him a beat before you got to break even more harsh news.
Don't know how they process emotions.
No, I don't know how this fictional character processes emotions.
Only you do, Mikey.
And that's how they do it.
Okay.
They're like Vulcans.
Only truth and honesty all the time.
No, that's Romulan. Romulans believe in candor. I'm like dork. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, but aren't...
Vulcans believe in logic, but they can still lie. Romulans believe in radical honesty.
That's what it is.
Radical
Okay.
candor, which, by the way, if you work at a tech company now, that's what they like. We all believe in radical candor. Give feedback early, often, and yeah.
That's because that's what cults do so they can yell at you. Yeah, it's like a synonym thing.
Well, that's conflict therapy. It's a
Right.
different name for similar things.
Exactly. One of those is illegal, so we call it something else.
Anyway, Isaac has deep fried a bunch of mun fingers to make French fries.
I think you mean finger fries, but yes.
Finger food. He likes finger foods.
But in this case, it is actually foods made of fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Kate's put up a shield on their Santa Maria ship because...
Donut boat? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, donut boat, because Shining Donut was like, hey, I'm still attached to this damn boat and I can't help you fight in this episode. And so she's like, I'll protect you. And he's like, good, because I'm about to custard my pants.
At least he's not going to custard the floor like you did last week.
Yes, on the graves of the fallen at the capital of Crouton, Danielle, the Moon Queen, bestows upon her the crown jewels of the Crouton people from...
It's just a, like, fried, breaded crown.
When you hear your family.
When you're here, you're royalty. This crown is delicious.
Libby and Aaron. Libby, who is the prime minister of now the Mun Empire. And then she coronates Danielle, the Moon Queen. And then Aaron, the Moon General, has a bunch of just Star Destroyers basically in the surface launching the attacks, and is just really not doing good stuff with this.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. It sounds like planet Croutonium has been taken over by the Mun people.
Wes, who's incredibly handsome now, has seduced the Mun because they were going to attack him, and they are hooking up.
So I guess my question, Mikey, then would be, can a Wes get a Mun person pregnant?
Yeah.
And like, how does that process work?
Mm-hmm.
They cannot.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess that just sandbags that whole
See
runner.
how easy that is, vampire fiction? Dreskel with the Illuminati. He gets with Captain Bruder and Anthony the ex-time master and Sophia the ex-time cop, and they're like, is this the real timeline? How screwed are we? And they're like, y'all, we took you out of time because every time you go back into time, shit like this happens, and this is why we're so mad at you. Driscoll, how are you gonna fix this? And then
They're literally time out of time.
yeah.
If you kill all the people the moon has here,
Time out of time.
Nathan, the professional wrestler, has a folding chair and is just killing dozens and dozens of Mun.
Oh, yeah, Mun Brothers.
Jennifer with a PH, who was working with the time people as kind of a traitor to the friends, has come back around, and now she has just a regular Glock and just kind of shooting some Mun people.
Nice.
She's actually really gotten into the Second Amendment.
Oof. Okay.
on the moon or here?
Both.
Because I don't know what the moon's Second Amendment is.
Apparently, in this universe, the Second Amendment is a universal constant.
No matter what planet you go to, in what galaxy, the Second Amendment exists.
She said, I took this amendment with me. It's God-given right. It's whatever. We don't have to do it. Jeremy with the laser's eyes.
Wait, but what if your planet doesn't have bears?
You fight barehanded. Jeremy with the laser eyes. He's cutting people up like Cyclops, doing great stuff today.
Good work out there.
You gave his part of the story like you were a weatherman doing a weather report.
Or a coach about to slap a high schooler's ass.
Good job out there to go.
Good job.
Good job
Good
out there
game.
today, Laser Eyes.
Good game.
Good game chopping all them people up with your laser eyes.
Cody has set up his pawn shop again, and he is selling ammunition to Jennifer with a PH. It's just...
Man, that guy has an angle
Wow.
every planet they go to, man.
Money anywhere you can get it.
Yeah, man.
Alex the Magician, who I turned evil a couple episodes ago, I think.
Okay.
You think?
But the Muns, he is with Danielle the Moon Queen. She's like, being a magician's super fucking lame. You're out. And they kick him out of the Crouton Capital. Lauren, the cave person, is just beating the shit out of Muns because they're small grays, and they are splitting skulls, giant gray skulls. They're just splitting skulls. Mr. Rage Bomb accidentally blows up a whole city, kills 10,000 Mun/blue people.
What is this, a Marvel movie budget? Like, what? We're destroying a whole city now?
And the helicarrier fell
This is
out
a
of the
whole
sky.
interstellar invasion. I'm trying to up the game here.
Yeah.
Amy the astronaut, she has found Jeremy with the laser eyes toe and has put it on ice.
Did he lose a toe?
He did.
I missed that.
It's in my notes. I don't know why that detail is in my notes.
I love
and
that.
nothing else.
I love that you wrote that down.
Vance H.H. Holmes is bathing in the blood of everyone and has a bunch of organs wrapped around him and is just gleefully giggling.
He's just living his best life.
Yeah. Garotica has she's just playing guitar today, actually. She's not involved and she doesn't feel in it. She's back on board the donut, just playing music.
What I want for her is Mad Max, bass guitar, guy playing while they're driving. I want that, but she's
Yes.
playing music while all the people are fighting.
Yeah.
Captain Bruder and Wolfric, they're inside the donut ship, Santa Marina Donuts.
Right.
And they're just rocking out to her music and they're having fun. And they're like, this isn't our fight. I don't know why we're getting involved. And that's our episode.
Side note, if there is a Santa Maria Donuts out there, please sponsor the podcast. And I guess we'll have to wait till next week to find out what happens on another episode of The Patreonicals.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Yeah.
Have an amazing week.
Bye, Santa Maria Donut Shop nerds.